Alright, okay. Let's get started. No messing about with this one, straight into it. Um, this is a spur of the moment live stream. I didn't plan it or anything. It's just happening because I say so. So yeah, got back from the gym. Was still a bit restless, and I thought, you know what, I'm amped up. So yeah, I could sit here scratching my balls, or I could make a live stream, one or the other. And if anybody's here, let me know if you can. Again, as always, let me know if you can hear the audio clearly because got my microphone plugged in, and as you guys that were on my last live will know, it was constantly doing the orange ring of death, as I call it. So yeah, if anybody can let me know if they can hear my voice clearly, because from where I'm sitting, I can't actually tell if it's the microphone or if it's the bloody inbuilt laptop microphone. Because again, it's been a bit dodgy. I've been trying to mess with the setting. I actually recorded a bloody nearly 50-minute video the other day, and yeah, the audio was way too quiet. So which is weird because it depends on what laptop I'm using. When I use this laptop, it seems to be quieter than my other one. I don't know, man. Technology confuses me. So who we got here? Shout out to Daz. Good to see you here, man. Every time, evening. Yeah, I know it's a late one. It's a late one here. I usually don't start streaming this late, but again, I was amped up. I got the urge to do it. I've been amped up all day actually. It's weird. As soon as I got up today, I was just absolutely hyped and raring to go. And I went to the gym about 5 o'clock, and I actually had a really good session today. And I got home and I was still full of energy. Just one of them days. I don't know if it's like high testosterone or something. Just one of them days. I'm just so full of energy. You know, loud and clear. Awesome, awesome. That's good to hear. I'm relieved, if truth be told. Audio is clear. Awesome, man. Yeah. Yeah, I recorded a video for my gaming channel, within the past couple of days or past few days, and I had to, like it took me several tries to actually record the audio for it because bloody thing was just constantly coming out too quiet, and I don't know, man, I think this microphone has just about bit the dust. I think, like, the actual connection on it is a problem, you know? And again, for some reason, it sounds loud on one laptop, but it's quiet on another. I don't know why. Is what it is. Shout out to Lee Talks Boxing. Good to see you here, man. Yep, evening to you too, man. God bless. God bless you too every time, man. It's good to see you here. Got it. Awesome, man. Awesome. I'm all ears. Great sound. Awesome, man. That's good. Yeah, it seems to be working now. Let's hope it doesn't um orange ring of death when we get to the good bits of the stream, you know. Shout out to Dublin. Hello from Dublin. Awesome. Love Dublin, man. I'd love to go there one day. Beautiful place. Beautiful. Yeah, it's on my to-do list. Wanna go to Ireland. Beautiful place. I might go to bed soon. Been out earlier. Yeah, that's up to you, man. It's up to you. Again, I'm just I could go to bed now, but I'm just so full of energy, man. Been full of energy all day. It's one of them days, you know? You can use online tools to increase audio volume if you still have the file, yeah. Yeah, I can do that. Thing is though, I don't particularly like doing that because see when I do, like, let's see if I go on like an editing software and the audio's already been recorded, and then I just crank up the volume. What I find is that my voice starts to sound a little bit high pitched, and it doesn't sound natural. So like when I like to do my reviews, I I prefer to do it's a thing where, like, I prefer for it to sound like my natural voice, like I'm just talking, you know? I don't like for it to be too high pitched, you know? But I see what you're saying, you can do that. I've done it before, don't get me wrong, I have. I was listening to one of your old streams on the way to a job interview. By the time I got there, I forgot why I was there. I don't know why that made me laugh for some reason. I can just picture that. You're in, like, a suit, and you're, like, on the bus or something on the way to a job interview listening to my stream, and it gets to, like, a particularly, like, spicy part of the stream, and you're just like, "Where am I going?" Like you're just on the way back with, like, an ice cream or something. I don't know why, I can just picture that. That's funny, man, I like that. Adrian Broner fight, I forgot all about that. Do you know, mate, no word of a lie, I literally forgot all about that. Is that happening tonight? Yeah, who's he fighting again? Blair Cobbs. I don't think I've ever seen that guy fight before, but, yeah, Adrian Broner, man. Adrian Broner's just a meme at this point. He's literally like some people that you kind of ironically call them a clown, but Adrian Broner is unironically a clown. That's literally what he is, you know? Who's the next, great black hope at heavyweight? Well, right now it's Daniel Dubois. He's the current great black hope. You know, he's the heavyweight version of Andre Ward. So, but again, when he quits again, all the tards will jump straight off him and probably onto someone else. I don't know, Frank Sanchez or whoever. Know that you're invited anytime. Awesome, man. I'd love to go to thingy. I'd love to go to Ireland. Beautiful place, man. Why do you call yourself the Nordic warrior? Are you of Norse ethnicity? Not to my knowledge, no. Like I've explained this many, many times. I'm sick of explaining it, but I'll explain it one more time just for you, and probably 100 more times after. It has nothing to do with my ethnicity or my cultural heritage at all. It's literally just it's like a LARPing. Like, and when I say LARPing, I mean that like I mean that entirely unironically. Like it's based on a role playing video game, the Elder Scrolls series, where I would always play as a Nord warrior. That was always the player class that I would choose. And with me, at one point in time, believe it or not, intending for this channel to become a gaming channel, I decided to give myself sort of an extremely LARPy, video game related name that I thought sounded awesome at the time, but I deeply regret it now. And the name just kind of stuck, even though I decided to keep this channel about boxing and just about whatever I feel like talking about. And I decided to make another channel and make that entirely gaming related. So yeah, that's why this channel is called Nordic Warrior. And if I changed it now, if I gave it a more like suitable channel name, or if I just used my name, it would be so confusing for my current viewing audience. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. The name just stuck. The name just stuck over the years, and I just decided to keep it. So yeah, is what it is. But it has nothing whatsoever to do with my would you call it with my heritage. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, bro. Is what it is. You and Johnny Boy were talking about black Muslims. Then I pulled into a parking lot. I hope you weren't playing it on speaker. We could have got you done in, man. Like I hope you. Yeah, I hope it wasn't on speaker. It's kind of dangerous, you know. My apologies there. Listen to my live streams at your own risk. Put it that way, you know. The thing I don't get is how you win a bronze medal without knowing how to box Wilder. It probably just by a fluke, or a lot of flukes happen in amateur boxing. There's plenty of gift decisions. There's plenty of guys not seeing any footage of their opponents, not really knowing how to handle themselves against a particular style, and they end up winning. I mean, Audley Harrison won a gold medal, and look at the state of him when he tried to box. He was barely a journeyman. And sometimes all you need is height and reach as an amateur. Like if you're 6'7" or whatever Wilder is, he could have been fighting a cruiserweight sized heavyweight who, just wasn't in shape, didn't see any footage of his opponent, and just happened to get outpointed at long range. That can easily happen. At long range in amateur boxing, if the guy appears to be outworking you, he can win on that point scoring system. So I'm not surprised Wilder had some success as an amateur, but I do agree it's a bit astonishing that he was able to become an Olympian. But I'd say that says more about the absolute state of the heavyweight Olympics that year than it does about Wilder's boxing ability. I don't think Wilder's boxing ability was what won him it. I think it was more circumstantial, you know. He's fighting pound for pound Blair Cobbs, who beat the great Maurice Hooker. It's an interesting fight then. If he beat Maurice Hooker, then wouldn't surprise me one bit if he was able to defeat Broner, but who knows? I don't think I've ever seen the guy fight, so I've no idea. I'm just guessing, you know. Broner was always so hyper. Yeah, he was. He was so like as if you know, he's like a mentally ill child who's just hopped up on sugar, isn't he? You know, just bouncing off the walls. Very, very hyper, and always like jumping about, always acting insane. And you wonder how much of it was like you wonder how much of it was genuine and how much of it was just LARPing. You know, I don't know, but like yeah, Broner was insane, and he was very, very strange. You know. Do you still favour Beterbiev with his even with his recent knee injury? I do because look, Beterbiev, he's come back from injuries before, and don't get me wrong, it's a concern. We should be concerned about it, but you know, even with that, it's a situation where we've seen him recover, and we've seen him replenish, and we've seen him come back from injuries and win very, very in very, very spectacular fashion at that similar level, you know. So I don't doubt he could come back and win it, you know. But it's a concern nonetheless, you know. I find it funny how every Josh Warrington fight, all people do is talk about his head. Dubois headbutts Hergovich all night, and no one bats an eye. Yeah, gee, I wonder why that is. I'm putting my little Inspector Gadget hat on here, and I'm wondering, is there something about Daniel Dubois that's different to Josh Warrington that would make people excuse his headbutting? Maybe it's his hair color or his eye color or something. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that differentiates the two. You know. Jared Anderson versus Martin Bakole, an interesting fight. I might favour Bakole. Yeah, yeah, that is interesting. I spoke to somebody today at the gym who knows Bakole, and has said like he's seen him spar up close, and apparently he apparently he absolutely battered, and I mean absolutely battered Joe Joyce in sparring not too long ago. That's what I was told by someone who knows Bakole anyway. Apparently he battered Joe Joyce in sparring. And yeah, Jared Anderson versus Bakole. That's very interesting to me because Bacole's the bigger guy, much bigger puncher, but he's very lazy and he's shown a distinct lack of heart in the past. So I don't know, man. Like I could see Anderson outpointing him, but at the same time, I could see Martin Bakole using his size and his strength and you know, putting a beating on him and stopping him late. Like I could see that going either way. You know, it's an interesting one. Yeah, the wall headbutt his way to a title. Headbutt, low blow, whatever it takes by any means necessary. And the commentators like he'll land a low blow and the commentators will say, "Oh, lovely body shot." And he'll land a headbutt and they'll say, "Oh, those are some excellent inside fighting skills," you know. I find it extremely racist and disrespectful you call yourself Nordic. I am a British Swede. My ancestors ruled England. I am highly offended by your racist ethnic thievery. That's a good troll, man. Awesome. I like that. I appreciate that, honestly. It's funny because a lesser man than myself would think you're being serious, but thankfully I'm an expert troll myself, so that you know I appreciate that. I'm like Boba Fett when you know where he nodded at Princess Leia when she was about to blow the place up with a detonator, and he's just like, "That's exactly the kind of thing I would do." Salute. So it's a fair comparison, I think. I actually like your name, Nordic Warrior. It's quite unique. Thanks, man. Yeah, it sounded badass at the time. I thought people would think I was like, you know, a Nordic barbarian, you know, who walks around with a silver sledgehammer, you know, fighting monsters and demons and all. It just sounded badass. Now it just sounds kind of cringy and larpy, but here's what it is. It's good to hear a Scottish person that's not left wing. It seems like most Scottish people I meet and come across online are very left wing. Yeah, yeah. Scotland's a country that's been sadly buck broken a long time ago, and there's no national identity whatsoever. You know, what do you expect? The country's been flipping invaded and pillaged that many times that most people here don't even know who they are anymore and have a, you know, consistent death wish. It is what it is. Well, that election debate on BBC Farage is a spent force, but somehow I was able to boss that panel. I didn't see it. I didn't see it, but I can imagine so. Farage is a very sharp-witted and well-spoken individual, so it doesn't surprise me one bit. He's a very, very good crowd pleaser. I've noticed. Like Nigel Farage is one of these guys who, whatever political party he's involved with, will be guaranteed support. Like when he was with UKIP, they were able to win an election easily. Then when he went over to the Brexit party, the vast majority of the UKIP supporters followed him. Like they didn't even follow their own party; they followed him. So yeah, he's built that Reform Party up well. So yeah, good luck to him. God bless him. Anderson is a prime example of an Amero bum. Yeah, time will tell. He's unproven. I'm reserving judgment on him and giving him the benefit of the doubt until we see him in a significant fight. Wilder is really a cruiserweight. He could be. He could be a cruiserweight. Like then again, he is very, very low body fat percentage. Looking at him, so I don't know about that, but I don't doubt he could make cruiserweight. I don't think he could make it healthily, but I do think he could make it. Would have been interesting to see him there, but I don't think he would have had much success because there was a lot of while Wilder was at his prime, there was a lot of very, very strong inside fighters, very, very tough inside fighters at cruiserweight. Like I think somebody like Murat Gassiev or Marco Huck, or Briedis or try to think of some more. Even someone like Goulamarian. I think there's a lot of cruiserweights who would have taken out Wilder if he were to drain down to cruiserweight. Even even someone like let's say like a prime Thomas Adamek at cruiserweight. I think he would stop Wilder because again Wilder wouldn't be as like healthy and replenished. At the same time, he would have guys who were quicker and shorter and know how to fight inside, get under his punches. Like I honestly think he would get knocked out at cruiserweight, like if he moved down and fought some of the best guys there. I honestly do. Audley was ace as an amateur. Yeah, he peaked at the amateurs. Again, he had the like I was talking about earlier, he had the like height, reach, strength, power, speed, like in his prime. And he had just physical like I don't think he was a great boxer, but he had physical ability that allowed him to win in a fairly limited amateur heavyweight scene. Sometimes that's all you need in the amateurs. We could have Beterbiev versus Usyk. Do you know what? I was thinking of making a video about that, believe it or not. I was thinking about it on the way to the gym today. I was thinking to myself, Usyk and Beterbiev have a lot of history together from the amateurs. And there seems to be, if you listen to like what Usyk says about Beterbiev and whatnot, there seems to be a little rivalry there that's still there. It's still in the back of their minds. And with the kind of just like shocking physical ability that Beterbiev has, with the fact that him and Usyk are naturally a similar size. I mean, I know Usyk's bulked up over the years. Usyk's now fighting at heavyweight, but like Beterbiev has been a career light heavyweight as a pro, but I think he was a heavyweight in the amateurs and when he fought Usyk, and Usyk's obviously mostly a cruiserweight, but he's now fighting at heavyweight. So he's obviously grown a lot more. He's filled out a lot more. But dimensionally, the two guys are a similar size, and if they were to meet in the middle at cruiserweight, that could be a fascinating fight. Like I'd favor Usyk. Don't get me wrong. I think Usyk would win, mostly based on size and skill from long range. But it would be a fascinating fight to watch. I would love to see it. So that's a fight. Again, I was thinking of making actually a video about that and breaking it down because I genuinely think that if I'm not saying Beterbiev would win, I still think Usyk would win convincingly, but while it lasts, it would be a fascinating fight to watch. Really would, in my opinion. Audley was a master of amateur boxing, basically a different sport. Yeah, like I was saying, he had the attributes: size, long reach, power, speed. Like in the amateurs, he had the physical ability, like natural genetics and physical ability to win over the course of a 3-round fight with big gloves and a head guard. He had the talent for that. He had the ability for it. The only way I see people winning is if he converts to Islam. No, no, no. That's not the answer. Trust me. Trust me. He needs Jesus Christ. That's who he needs. Cobbs is another weirdo who paints his nails and talks big, but he might actually win due to Broner throwing like 10 punches around. Yeah, Broner barely throws anything, and unless he's like a big A side, he doesn't get the rounds on the scorecards these days like he used to, you know? Um, Blair Cobbs is the second oldest prospect behind the great Demetrius Andrade. Yeah. Who else is an old well, Wilder's a 38-year-old prospect. You know, he's 38 years old. He's had over 40 fights, and he was a world champion for years, but he still hasn't, he still hasn't got one world level victory, has he? You know, Luis Ortiz is still his best win, and I wouldn't consider him world class. Is what it is. Wilder was a heavyweight, not a super heavyweight in the Olympics. That's what I said. Yeah, heavyweight. And yeah, it was a weak division. He beat one Algerian bum, drew with a Moroccan bum, and went on a count back, and then got battered in the semis to Russo. Yeah, yeah, and he got smashed in the amateurs by Evgeny Romanov. He got stopped in one-sided fashion. Looks like you already talked about it. Anyone else watching the clown show fight tonight? I might check it out afterwards. I probably will at some point. Like if it's on YouTube or whatever. I won't watch it live, but if it's on YouTube, I'll probably check it out. Apparently, Bacoli has battered everyone in sparring. Yeah, that was what the guy I was talking to today, who's like friends with Bacoli. He was telling me that he battered Joe Joyce, apparently absolutely battered him, and he says, like, he busted up, Hughie Fury as well. I knew about that already because I remember when Hughie Fury fought Pulev, and he had that big cut over his eye going into the fight, and it was stitched up. Well, apparently it was, Martin Bacoli that caused that. So, yeah, Bacoli and that's another thing he was saying, the reason why the likes of Joyce and um, Anthony Joshua won't fight him is because he's kind of got so much experience of sparring them that he knows certain tactics to beat them, and they know how dangerous he is, so they won't fight him basically. But it's interesting to me because again, he's one of them guys. It's like he's probably made a good living as a sparring partner, but it's cost him big fights because again, the likes of Joe Joyce and Anthony Joshua and Hughie Fury and I don't know, did he spar with Dubois? He might have. Like who? But I know he sparred with Hughie Fury and Joe Joyce and Anthony Joshua, and apparently those guys just won't fight him because they know how dangerous he is from sparring. What do you think of Vlad Surenko? He looks like a solid heavyweight prospect and punches hard with both hands. Knocked out Dubois in sparring. Never seen him fight. Never seen him fight, so I can't comment. But if he knocked out Dubois in sparring, well, I could probably do that if I landed if I landed a shot on his chin. He would probably quit. Anyone know what time the fight starts? 6 p.m. I've no idea. Sorry, I've absolutely no idea. He claimed he stopped Usyk in sparring with a body shot. Yeah. Yeah, because Usyk doesn't like it to the body. See, one shot to the body, and Usyk like will literally vomit his guts out. Because Eastern Europeans have this thing about them where the body is just a sweet spot. If you could just tap them on the body, and it would be like it's like tapping a marshmallow. You could just shove your finger straight through it, hit him once in the body, and you've seen it all through his career. Whenever he gets hit to the body, he goes straight down to his knees, cries like a little girl, vomits his guts out, and he can never ever withstand the force of just even a light body shot. Yo, bro, do you ever listen to Fight Film? I think I do, Alex. I think I do. Yeah. Josh should Josh Taylor move up to welter? Yeah, of course. I've been saying that for years. Been saying for years he should move up to welterweight. Just too big for 140. Too big. Should move up to welterweight. Listening to Don Charles makes me feel like I'm losing brain cells, especially with the way he says "yeah" at the end of every sentence with that weird accent. Yeah, he's tired. Yeah, but no, it's you're tired. Yeah, but he's more tired than you. Yeah, throw that jab. Yeah, throw the jab off the hook. Yeah. Like, mate, Don Char I know I said this already. I know I like it's funny, I said in the comment section, like, I was responding to somebody on my Dubois video, and, well, no, I was responding to somebody who brought up Don Charles, and I was saying I meant what I said in the stream, that if I see Don Charles in person, I'm gonna say to him that Usyk made Dubois quit, or Dubois quit against Usyk, and I'll see if he punches me in the face because he was making threats to journalists. Like he was making threats in an interview, and he said that anybody in his presence who says that Dubois quit against Usyk, he's going to punch them in the face. So I would love to see that guy pull out my camera and record him and see if he and say to him Usyk or Dubois quit against Usyk and see if he punches me and see what happens to him. He's an old man who thinks he's hard. Would you favour Taylor against Crawford prime for prime? Absolutely, absolutely. I favour Taylor. But I don't think he stopped Crawford. I think he'd win on points because what would happen in that fight, and I'm talking about Taylor at his absolute full potential, his absolute prime, and at welterweight, right? I think what would happen is he would kind of dip to his right, because Crawford kind of switches his stance. Sometimes he'll fight in southpaw, sometimes he'll fight in orthodox, but he's primarily a southpaw. I think he's more coordinated like that. And Josh Taylor is obviously a southpaw too. And in his prime, he used to dip to the right and he'd throw a right uppercut to the body, and then he'd pivot and throw a left to the body, either a hook or an uppercut, and he could do it fluidly. And with Taylor being a little bit bigger than Crawford, a little bit, he might not be stronger, probably not, because Crawford does a lot of like weight training. That guy's incredibly strong, but Taylor's definitely bigger. I think Taylor's more naturally durable, and Taylor seems to be a little bit more handy at close range on the inside. I think he could smother Crawford inside, and I think he could catch him to the body. And I've seen Crawford get pieced up by guys who are like very basic. Avanesian on the inside was piecing him up, landing combination after combination. Amir Khan was catching him with ease from the outside. Kelbrook was schooling him behind a jab and a long right hand. And Kavalauskas, again, a very simple, upright, basic European style fighter who doesn't really do anything that special, but has good fundamentals and good power. He dropped Crawford with a hard straight right hand from long range. So if those guys are hitting Crawford and are arguably winning rounds against him, I don't see, and all of them are like either a similar size to him or they were like drained, right? I don't see why a healthy Josh Taylor in his prime, who's bigger than Crawford, who has better stamina than Crawford, I don't see why he couldn't get inside and mess Crawford up and outwork him and win on points. I don't see why he couldn't. So yeah, I would favour Josh Taylor prime for prime in that fight. Farage reminds me of Mr. Bean. Oh man, that made me cough. Sorry. Farage reminds me of Mr. Bean. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Teddy, he's here in the shower with me. you ever seen the Mr. Bean movie, the one where he goes to America, and like him and the guy are like, for some reason they're in the shower together by accident, and then the phone rings. He picks it up and he goes like, "Hello, he's here in the shower with me." What is it? That bit where he's like, he's supposed to cook a turkey, but he forgot, and he's like, "They take 5 hours to cook," and then it just goes, "Not necessarily," and he puts it in the microwave. That's such a funny movie. I need to watch that again. Funny movie. I wanted to see Wilder versus Povetkin back then. Mate, Povetkin would have absolutely pulverized Wilder. He would have slipped underneath Wilder's long, sloppy punches. He would have whacked him with an uppercut. He'd have whacked him with a hook. Wilder would have been doing the David Price, like freezing up, like he's just, giving you a free shot. And Povetkin would have just laid him out. He would have laid him out. He'd have knocked him out probably in the mid rounds, I think. Vladimir Klitschko, Doc Derek Chisora, Don Charles. Mate, could you imagine what Vladimir would have done to Derek Chisora? Come on now. It's an absolute mismatch. He'd have knocked him out easily. Look, I know he pulled out, but he pulled out with an abdominal injury. And I have absolutely no reason to suspect that it was a fake injury. Like he just, mate, he would have smashed him. He would have smashed Chisora. It's a mismatch. Orly might have nailed Tyson Fury on the way up on Channel 5. That was about to happen. Yeah, he was calling him out, wasn't he? He was calling Tyson Fury out. I don't think he would have beaten him at that stage of his career. Like, he'd have had a puncher's chance, but I think Fury even then would have made him quit, probably. I mean, Price took him out in the first round, you know? Do you think Muslims should leave the UK? What are your opinion on black Muslims who are already British and from Caribbean heritage? Um, do I think Muslims should leave the UK? To be perfectly honest, I don't think there should be Muslims in the UK, full stop. I mean, it's Islam is a false religion. This is a Christian country. And yeah, if they want to live here, praise be to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Right? Is what it is. Real talk. Seeing the LDBC cope since Wilder got flattened is hilarious. Saying Wilder is prime would have knocked out Zhang, ignoring the fact Zhang is 3 years older than Wilder. Yeah. And not only that, what Zhang is, what, 80 pounds heavier than Wilder? Guys, Zhang can just ragdoll Deontay Wilder around that ring easily. And it wouldn't matter if Wilder was in his prime or not, because again, he's 80 pounds heavier. And the guy's a southpaw. Wilder has no idea how to fight a southpaw. The guy's got fast hands for his size. You know, he went in there, cut off the ring. He did what Josh Taylor should have done to Catterall. He kept Wilder on the ropes and kept pounding away at him. When Wilder got close with that right hand, Zhang would just smother him, literally just lean on his chest and smother him. Like that fight's always a mismatch. It doesn't matter what like version of Wilder it is. He's still going to be too small. He's still going to be too weak, and he's still going to be outmatched and outgunned. He doesn't hit as hard as Zhang, and he's not as skilled as Zhang. So even putting the size advantage that Zhang has aside, Zhang is too technically good for Wilder. He beats him easily. Any stage of his career, he beats him easily. Who do you think would win? Wilder went to Bridgerweight to fight Okolie. Right now, I think Okolie would probably clinch him all night, smother him, and win by probably a controversial decision. You know, if Wilder was like, let's say Wilder from the third Fury fight, where he actually, you know, seemed to have some sort of game plan and trained hard and whatnot, I think he could maybe stop Okolie because Okolie would try and clinch and, you know, he'd just walk onto something and probably quit or something. That guy has no heart whatsoever. I'm talking about Lawrence Okolie. So yeah, but right now I think Okolie probably won on points. Wilder would have never have fought Zhang in the PBC. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And the PBC would have protected him. Usyk Opetaya, good fight. Usyk would win, but it's a good fight. I would like to see it. I would pick Parker Oak to beat Dubois. I think he has the slickness to outmaneuver Dubois and avoid the headbutts. I agree. I agree. I would favor Parker in that fight. Don't think he would stop Dubois. Think he would school him and win on points, though. I think. Usyk saying he's struggling at heavyweight because he needs to eat a lot. I know his body will react going down again. Yeah. Well, I'm assuming Usyk has to do a lot of like weight training and strength and conditioning, and I'm assuming he has to eat a lot of protein. It's interesting because you know I'm in a situation right now. I was going to talk about this. I am. I weighed myself at the gym today. I'm 188 pounds. So I'm losing weight pretty quickly and well, pretty steadily. I'm losing weight, but I'm doing a lot of weight training. And the reason why is because as I lose weight, as the weight comes off me, I want to maintain my strength. So I'm doing a lot of pull-ups and I'm doing strength and conditioning. And well, you know, with Usyk, he's in a situation where I'm assuming when he's training, he's probably because he's been about 230 before. And yet he weighed in about what 223, something like that. So I'm assuming that Usyk loses weight easily when he trains at heavyweight, but in order to keep to keep his weight at a level that it needs to be for him to be able to out muscle and out wrestle the likes of Tyson Fury and you know Derek Chisora, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Dubois, Witherspoon, whoever, like for him to be able to have the physicality to deal with these guys, I'm assuming he has to eat a lot of protein, like a lot of protein to repair his muscles from the type of training, you know, the type of training he's doing. Because you look at Usyk, the guy's a tank right now. He's a unit. He looked big in the Fury fight. He looked very, very strong. Wilder's first loss should have been against Audley. He hit him several times when he was down. Yeah, yeah. What happened there? Wilder hit Audley with the right hand. Audley basically took a knee, went down into the corner, and then Wilder just started swinging, like, with full force, swinging for the back of his head. That was disgraceful. Mate, that should have been an immediate disqualification. I don't care what anybody says, and I think I said so at the time, that or I thought it anyway. That should have been an immediate disqualification, you know? Looking forward to seeing Benavidez Vos great fight. Very look, I'm struggling to pick a winner there. Could be Vosdick could pull an upset there if he can get back to the form he was in before the layoff, you know? Sporting Icons said he saw the bum take a knee in sparring, maybe to Bacoli. It might have been to Bacoli because again, as we keep hearing, he's been beating up a lot of heavyweights in sparring, you know? What's up, Nordic? How's it going, man? Good to see you. What do you think about Oscar De La Hoya as a boxer? To me, he's a perfect textbook example of what an orthodox boxer should be. De La Hoya had a very good jab and he had great lateral movement. He was very, very good from the outside. And what's interesting too is when he needed to, like particularly earlier in his career, he was very good at slipping and throwing the left hook to the body. That was one of his best punches. But he definitely had flaws. I think defensively he had some flaws, and he couldn't really handle speed. Like I know the Pacquiao fight was at the end of his career, but you look at that fight, Pacquiao just moved around him laterally and peppered him with the jab and the straight left hand, and he didn't really seem to have an answer for it technically. And it was the same when he fought Felix Sturm, you know, a guy who was bigger than him and who had a great jab and good lateral movement, good long range boxing, and who was fit to do it for 12 rounds. De La Hoya technically to me got completely like schooled and embarrassed in those fights. So, but again, earlier in his career, you know, he was always the bigger man. Well, usually the bigger man, and I think that sort of made up for his technical deficiencies. But he was a very good boxer, no doubt about it. Very tough too. You know, great chin and great stamina. Very very good fighter, but flawed fighter, but a good fighter. You know. Yeah, nice to meet you too. God bless you. Martin Bacoli moved from the Congo to Airdrie, similar places. I'm pretty confident Martin will hurt Jared quite easily and push on for a title shot. I could see it. I could see it totally. I could see him using his size and breaking him down, but it will be a hard fight because again, Anderson's like you know he's a bit awkward. Anderson, you know, yeah, a bit awkward, bit technically proficient. I could see him nicking and winning by a close decision, but I don't know. I could see Batali. I could see Bacoli winning. Again, using his size and power, I could see him winning. Bacoli heart is in question. If he wanted to quit against Hunter, but Billy Nelson wouldn't let him. Yeah, he apparently injured his arm, but yeah, he wanted to quit right before the last round. So yeah, that was interesting. Who do you think punches harder, Vlad or Mike Tyson? I think Vlad punches harder. I think, you know, Tyson was more tenacious. He would like go in there, rip the body, throw hooks and uppercuts upstairs, and he would kind of break these guys down with accumulation. I don't think Tyson had the one punch power that Vlad had. I know he had a lot of highlight reel knockouts, but they weren't at a very high level, were they? I mean, Vlad was knocking out top level world class contenders with highlight reel knockout punches, you know. Tyson didn't really do that. He kind of made guys quit and broke them down gradually. So I think Vlad was the harder, like one punch knockout artist of the two. And let's not forget, he was a lot bigger, a lot heavier. So yeah, it makes sense, you know. Is what it is. Maybe because it's high risk, low reward with Bacoli because he's done enough. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Look, Bacoli's not a big name, so and you know with him being so dangerous in sparring, why would you risk fighting the guy? Why would someone like Joe Joyce risk fighting him? You know, nothing to gain from it. You know, if I hear Tim Bradley say Eastern Europeans don't like it to the body again, yeah. Yeah, Eastern Europeans don't like it to the body. You know, it's funny though because I watched Wilder versus Fury again earlier, and you know what I noticed from that? The first time Fury landed a body shot, Wilder all of a sudden was exhausted and like his whole body just buckled from it. So clearly Wilder doesn't like it to the body. You know, clearly most Amero bums don't like it to the body, you know. Triple G versus Bivol Beterbiev. Prime for prime, I think I favour him on points over Bivol in a very close fight. I think Beterbiev would be too strong and he'd probably outlast him and win a close decision. But I give Triple G a chance in either, at his absolute best. But he's undersized in both of those fights, so it would be difficult. England 0, Iceland 1 tonight. We lost to a frozen food supermarket. That's why mums go to Iceland. Do you remember that advert? That's why mums go to Iceland. It was that Kerry Katona, whatever her name is. Freddie Roach took both Vlad and Tyson on the pads. He said Vlad hit harder, but Tyson was quick. Yeah. Yeah, Tyson's definitely quicker and more explosive, but Vlad was so much more heavy-handed and had much better punching technique, so I think he hit a lot harder. I think that's about right. The Eastern European tag is bullshit anyway. It's like 20 countries with different languages, culture, history. Just lazy to lump them all together. Yeah, but they're all Russian, basically. So, as far as the Ameribums are concerned. Did you see a bunch of people cried racism because Willie Hutchinson said "bomba clot" to Craig Richards? Yeah, I was talking about that in my last stream, and I was saying, like, while the fight was happening, I was saying if I was Willie Hutchinson, what I would do is right after the fight, I go, "Say bomba clot, say you lose the fight, man. You lose to the white boy, say bomba clot, rasclot." Like that. That's what I would do to him if I were Willie Hutchinson. It's funny because I watched that fight. Willie Hutchinson played. That was a humiliation. Like he played with Craig Richards. He literally played with him. Like Craig Richards had nothing in that fight. He like from the opening round of that fight. I noticed in the first round, Willie Hutchinson came out. He was throwing like big hooks, and he was in orthodox. And like that was the first time I'd ever really sat and looked at Willie Hutchinson and watched him. And then all of a sudden he's in southpaw, and Craig Richards is trying to land the jab because Craig Richards is one of these guys who is a long jabber. He likes to control fights behind the jab, and you'll notice when he fought Bivol, he did very well at messing Bivol around with the jab from long range. Willie Hutchinson realized that when he was in a southpaw stance, he was able to utilize that stance to take away Richards' jab. And you'll notice Richards stopped throwing the jab because every time he tried to, he was missing and getting countered. And he tried throwing the straight right to the body instead because he could land that on like the southpaw stance that Willie was using. But when Willie would switch to orthodox and then catch him with a big left hook, and it's like Craig Richards had no idea what to do, and he was shocked, and he was clueless, and he stopped throwing punches, and I was very impressed. By the way, I think I gave. Some people are saying it was close in the later rounds. I think I gave Willie every single round. Every single round, he landed better punches and landed more punches, and even in the later rounds when they said he was tired, I don't think he was that tired. I mean, he'd never been 12 rounds before, so clearly he was pacing himself, but he was still dancing and bouncing around in the 12th round, still throwing the harder, more accurate punches in the 12th round. So I was very impressed. I thought he looked very good. And it's interesting because he did get stopped by a low level opponent at super middleweight, but he's been fighting at light heavyweight since then, and I think he's replenished, and I think he's more durable and healthy now, and he looks a lot fitter. So yeah, that's the best win of his career, and I thought he was very impressive. And it's weird because, like I said, he seemed equally coordinated in each stances, and I think he made the tactical decision to turn to southpaw to avoid the jab, and try and like bait Richards into throwing the straight right, and then switching back to orthodox and countering. It was very impressive, I thought, and it was interesting too because like, see, while I was watching it, like there was moments in the fight where, you know how sometimes fighters showboat, like Tyson Fury when he showboats, and it's like, why are you showboating? This isn't gaining you anything tactically. It's not helping your performance. But like Willie Hutchinson would stop, and he would turn away and look at the crowd as if he was like disrespecting the opponent and showboating. And then Richards would go to like throw a big punch, like he's not looking, I can catch him, and then Hutchinson just walks him into a lead right jab. And I noticed while I was watching it, I was like, that was a tactical move. He looked at the crowd and pretended that he wasn't paying attention to trick Richards into throwing the right hand and leaning forward so he could walk him into a right jab. And I was like, that was slick. See, that's when showboating actually helps you, when you use it as a tactic. So very impressed. Very impressed with Willie Hutchinson. I think that guy's going to go very far if he stays on the straight and narrow and stays motivated. I really do. But yeah, where was I? I digress. Yeah, well, yeah, Willie Hutchinson did a racism on Richards. It's like saying Western Europeans and putting Ireland and Portugal together. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's similar concept, you know. It's just that ridiculous. It's the same logic, basically. Craig Richards was too busy seething over a word to focus on the fight. Yeah, I definitely think that was playing on his mind. But see, that's why you shouldn't like see if you're about to fight somebody who's a bit cocky and who showboats and all that. Don't engage with them before the fight. Don't let the things that they say to you get in your head and annoy you because you'll just think about it and it'll take you away from your game plan. See, Richards should have focused on his game plan and focused on winning the fight instead of focusing on what was said in the build up, you know? So I think that was a tactic from Willie, and I think it won. Frank Warren showed the 5 versus 5. He is a much better judge of talent. He got all the fighters from area level to world level. Eddie isn't on the same league as a promoter yet. Well, Frank is a lot more experienced. He's been in the game a lot longer, and you know you don't go as long in the game as he has without knowing how to spot talent and knowing how to develop a fighter. You know, how many world champions has Frank Warren brought through the ranks? Many, many. Shout out to Thunderdome. Good to see you here, man. Now he's about to get a haircut. Found something to listen to. Salute Nuda. Yeah, God bless you, man. Good to see you here, man. Every time. I enjoyed your last live, by the way. 140, Josh Taylor or Floyd. Josh Taylor would hit Floyd to the body so much that Floyd would be pissing blood for the next week. But Floyd would probably get the decision due to being Floyd, and he always gets the decision, even when he loses every single round, like he did in many fights. But in a real fight, you know, if it was scored fairly, Taylor on points. Who wins, Caballel or Zhang? Either Zhang knocks him out early or Caballel wins on points. Either one, I'm not too sure about it. Derek Chisora is just a Poundland Sam Peter. Yeah, he's a Sam Peter with less power and a worse chin. That's what he is, I'd say. If they fought, I think Sam Peter would win by knockout, prime for prime. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Vlad ducked Derek Chisora like Pacquiao ducked Zahir Rahim. Zahu Rahu? That was what Precise called him. He called him Zahu Rahu. If Caballo could survive the early rounds, he could beat Zhang. I agree. He could win it on point. I don't think he'd stop him. I think he could win it on points. Zhang beat up Wilder for the Stop Asian Hate movement. Yeah, yeah. He did it for the China man. You know, for those Chinese workers in Wilder's local takeaway who he probably abuses. You know, he got retribution for them. Usyk should go down to 210, make the weight more bearable. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think right now, see if he were to fight at heavyweight, he would be underweight at 210 because again, look, Usyk's what 6'3", and again, to fight someone that's 40 pounds heavier than him, someone like Fury, he needs extra body weight. He needs a bit of muscle mass. He needs a bit of fat. You know, he needs to be strong. So I don't think that would suit Usyk. I don't think he would beat Fury if he weighed 210. I think he needed to be at least 220 so that he had the physical strength and the extra body fat to help him recover during the difficult parts of the fight and to help him get through a training camp, you know? Are there any current heavyweights you would give a chance to beat Usyk? Well, I mean, look, I still give Fury a chance. I don't favor him, but I still give him a chance. You know, Fury has a chance against anybody with that kind of size and strength. You know, but you know, there's no one that I would give outside of Fury potentially. There's no one that I would give a realistic chance. I think he'd beat AJ again easily. I think he'd school Wilder. I think he'd school Zhang. I think he'd school Joyce. I think he'd school Bacoli. I think he'd school Anderson. I don't think any of these current top heavyweights would beat him. I honestly don't. Honestly don't. Where was I in this chart? There's a lot more people than I was expecting today. Who's the greatest ever southpaw? Maybe Joe Calzaghe. Joe Calzaghe probably is the greatest ever southpaw, I'd say. Yeah, yeah. The the left hook from Zhang was for the Chinese restaurant workers in the hoods of Alabama. Yeah, the station walk workers. You know, when Wilder goes in there and it's like, "What you want? Chicken fried rice, station walk," and then Wilder's like, "Hey, yo, man, I want my chicken fried rice. I want my wild time, baby." You know, and they're just looking at him like, "Wow, we speak better English than this N word," you know. Is that Iceland in pound for pound? I don't know. Um, no, no, sorry, 1 second. No, no, it's, have you ever been to Rossi? Basically, how can I enlarge this? I don't know how you enlarge the profile picture. It doesn't matter, but yeah, it's actually, Rossi, which is an island, in Scotland that I went to not too long ago, and yeah, I got some pictures there. That's what it is. So yes, it looks similar to Iceland. You know, Scotland and Iceland look very similar, but yeah, it's the island of Rossi in Scotland. Delahomo versus Sturm was disgraceful robbery. Sturm won 10 rounds. Yes, Sturm schooled him, won easily. For me, that was Pete Sturm in that fight. I don't think he ever looked that good again. Changed it up. Yeah, do you notice that's weird about Sturm? In that fight, he was a back foot boxer and he was switching his stance and schooling um De La Hoya behind the jab, but in his other fights after that, Stern became like more like Arthur Abraham, you know, tuck up behind the high guard, catch and counter. He became a more exciting fighter, but I think he was technically better before, you know, or he was more effective at moving and boxing behind a jab and switching stances, you know. Deontay Wilder's recently developed a new phobia of getting inside Chinese restaurants. Yeah, he goes in like, we got Ito, black man." Yeah, he walks in and like a Chinaman just comes out and goes, "Why you what?" And then he's like, he just panics and runs away. Oh. Thoughts on Bivol being accused of being a wife beater? I know nothing about it. I've not looked into it. I've not done any research, and I could care less. It's none of my business. It's his business, not mine. You know. I think Bacoli will stop Anderson in round 6 or 7. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Totally think that's plausible. Turkey made Wilder end his career by not allowing him to fight bums. Yeah, yeah, he actually made him take real fights against top 10 heavyweights for the first time in his career, aside from the Fury fights. Yeah, it was funny when Willie did that. That was slick though. Like he stopped, looked at the crowd, and then as soon as Craig Richard motioned to throw a punch, he just whack, he caught him with a quick right jab, snapped his head back. Very, very slick. That's why Wilder looked so shocked when Parker had him hurt, Zhang had him out because he's used to having fixed fights. Yeah, he's used to being like, "Oh, I only have to be perfect once. I'm in my right hand, and he go down. I don't need to do training, road work, blah blah blah." See, listening to Deontay Wilder talk, it's like you lose brain cells listening to this guy talk. Where he's talking about his fights, is like and he starts whispering. He's like, "You ain't gonna be dealing with Deontay Wilder. You gonna be dealing with the Bronze Bomber." And it's an ancestral spirit. I just answer your question, and when I land that right hand, you gonna be snoozing. And I only have to be perfect once, and then it's just like you wonder to yourself, how does this guy like what's going on in this guy's head? And some of the stuff he comes out with, you know, where he talks about wanting to experience pregnancy and wanting a body on his record. Like, what possesses a person to say things like that? You have to be retarded or something. You gotta have something wrong with you, you know. Looks like Frank and Don trying to cash out the bum with an AJ fight. They need to because the may quit before that, and they're hyping this up for a payday, and let's see what happens when AJ decks him. Yeah, I could see AJ knocking him out in the first round, though, like because Dubois got no defense, and AJ hits a lot harder than Hrgovic. So yeah, Artur Beterbiev physical strength comes from his wrestling background as a kid in Chechnya, and he lives a very healthy life. Yeah, yeah, he lives a very healthy life. Doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, looks after himself physically, and like that wrestling would help improve his strength. I do think he's very genetically gifted too. I want to see Gage versus Fury. I'm still taking Fury in that fight, but Gage has a puncher's chance. Yeah, yeah. Like for me, it depends on the Fury that shows up. If he's in shape, he takes it seriously. I think he wins handily, but I still give AJ a puncher's chance. Dominic Ingle was saying before Hutchinson thought he'd win. He also says Willie hits very hard, future world champion. I agree. He could be a future world champion without a doubt. Yeah, yeah. If he stays on the straight and narrow, definitely. Willie Hutchinson potentially beats Bivol. Yeah, I would favour Bivol right now. If he if he fought Bivol now, I would favour Bivol. But maybe in a couple of years, you never know. He could win it. You never know. Bivol has tried his best to age out Beterbiev. Time will tell if it's successful or not. I think that's his only realistic chance of winning is if he gets him at the right time. Because if he doesn't, I don't see him winning unless he really improves significantly. Fraser Clark did an interview the other day where he said that David Price hit way harder than Gage and Dubois. He sparred all of them. A lot of people said that. I mean, look, David Price, say what you want about him. David Price had shocking power, particularly in his right hand and his left hook. Like he had one of the best like straight right hands I've seen at heavyweight. It's just he didn't have the chin or the stamina to back it up. Taylor destroyed Mayweather. Mayweather's overrated. Yeah, in a real fight, Taylor would just hit him to the body all night, make him piss blood. Taylor would win easily, I think, in a real fight. Dubois is clearly not very good, but he hasn't developed as expected. He should be further ahead than he is now. But isn't it a surprise when he left a good coach in McGuigan for Don Charles? Yeah, why would you live? Why would you leave Shane McGuigan, like a world class coach, for that degenerate, like delusional old thug? Don Charles, like why the guy who trained Derek Chisora, that's Don Charles's claim to fame is being Derek Chisora's like being Derek Chisora's trainer, and when Derek Chisora just had a string of losses, being his trainer, like that's his claim to fame, and getting into a fight with David Haye and getting his ass kicked. Here's what it is. That's his claim to fame. Why would you hire him? I don't understand it. I think he's one of the worst trainers in Britain. I really do. In a real fight, Paul Williams would have beaten Floyd. Yeah, Paul Williams, way too tall, way too big. He would school Floyd, win easily. That's a mismatch. I don't think that's even competitive. I think it's a mismatch. Ruiz versus Miller is Snickers versus cheeseburgers. Yeah, that's two fat asses that are about to, kick each other's ass over a kebab or something. Winner gets a year's supply of burgers or whatever. Wilder's missus has dumped him. Gravy train over. She got a restraining order. Is that true? Did his missus dump him? Well, she is like some Instagram hoe. So what did he expect? What did he expect? Seriously, if that's true. Andy Ruiz is one of the most overrated heavyweights. He struggled badly with 60-year-old Luis Ortiz. Yeah, you know that's a fascinating fight to watch. By the way, 1 second. Where's my glass? I'm trying to find my glass. I don't know what I've done with it. I'll be with you guys in a second. I've got a freezing cold iron brew here, but nothing to drink it with. I'll be back in a second. Where's that bloody glass? Sorry about that. Not only did I go to get my glass, but I also needed a pee. So yeah, multiple things going on. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Sorry about this, guys. I'm just very unorganized right now. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. All right, where was I? Yeah, Andy Ruiz being one of the most overrated heavyweights. See the Luis Ortiz fight. What's fascinating about that to me, see when you watch that fight, it's like two guys who are severely, and I mean severely, physically struggling to get through that fight. Because like Andy Ruiz had so much like excess body fat on his arms, and you could just tell that all the years of like being overweight and like going up and down in weight, you could tell that it had taken its toll on him in that fight. And he was boxing quite well, like sticking the jab, moving, like countering with his overhand right. But Luis Ortiz, again, he was struggling to get through that fight too because he's like old and like again severely declined, poor stamina, very low work rate. But because he had like physical advantages, like the long arms and just being having slightly better reflexes, he was like cracking Andy Ruiz with really hard counter punches. But then Ruiz would come back with like a good counter of its own. And it was like both guys were being very, very cautious and very technical and very tactful. And it made that fight fascinating to watch. Like I like rewatching that fight. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting fight. Like I'd advise see if you guys haven't seen that fight, watch it. It's a very interesting fight. Miller versus Ruiz is 50-50. Miller washed and Ruiz is hugely overrated and inactive. Prime for prime, I'm taking Miller. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I think Ruiz is technically better, but I think Miller's a lot bigger, stronger, better stamina. I think Ruiz's stamina is pretty poor now. It was good in his prime, but again, I think all the poor lifestyle choices have caught up with him. It's interesting, like again, talking about Andy Ruiz as a recovering fat ass myself. You know, I I kind of have a like retrospective appreciation for Andy Ruiz. You know, the fact that the guy was literally like what 60 pounds overweight and still managed to win a heavyweight title and become like a a top contender for a while. I think it was really impressive if true, but I don't think he was that good. I think he was overrated, but to say he went as far as he did in boxing while being morbidly obese is astonishing. Like, it's very, very impressive. I've got to be honest, it really is. And it's fascinating. It's interesting. Ruiz wasted talent, fell off versus Joshua. Yeah, if he took the second fight seriously, but yeah, that's the thing. He didn't. He showed up again morbidly obese. For he was like Dustin Nichols, like Dustin Nichols in that AJ rematch, and he just walked around the ring, barely throwing a punch. And I remember I saw an interview with Manny Robles, his trainer, and I think he was saying he was embarrassed by Ruiz's performance and just how he handled himself in the build up so unprofessionally. And it's shocking to me, like, why would you do that going into one of the biggest fights of your career and you show up literally morbidly obese? Not even just a little bit pudgy, morbidly obese. You're not even giving yourself a chance. Like he didn't give himself a chance in that fight. Come on, man. Yeah, Wilder's whispering was the most unintentionally funny thing I've seen in boxing. Yeah, it's like Steven Seagal was like, "I'm gonna take you to the bank, the blood bank." That's what it was like. Who's the best, Fury, Taylor, or Warrington? I think Warrington is the most technically impressive. I think he's got the better boxing skills. Taylor's the most physically gifted. He's the most effective, like inside fighter. And like technically on the inside he's very good. Fury, I'd say, is the most like naturally athletically gifted. I'd say like inhuman reflexes for a man of his size and strength and stamina. Like Fury's just like extremely genetically gifted, I would say. At this rate, do you think Tanker's going to end up like Bumdrade? Could see it. I mean, he's been ducking and cherry picking for years. Do you think Beterbiev is on roids? Probably. I think all top level fighters are on roids. Listen, do you really think these guys train 6 days a week? They do weight training, strength and conditioning, boxing training. They run every single morning. They do all sorts of sparring and just really really impactful training that puts their bodies through a lot of stress. And you think that these guys are recovering from just sleep and food? Really? Like just sleep, food, and water? Is that how these guys are recovering? Very much doubt it. From personal experience of like training full time, I very much doubt these guys are doing what they do in the gym each day and recovering just by eating and sleeping and drinking water. I think there's a little bit more to it than that, you know? Fury, Taylor, and Warrington are on a similar level as fighters, but Fury's more intelligent in the ring than the other two. I agree with that. Taylor and Warrington both have more skills than Fury, I think, but Fury has better tactics, if you know what I mean. He's a lot smarter at planning fights, and he's a lot more smart at playing the game politically, you know. Kovalev versus Beterbiev. I still to this day I think Kovalev he has a stylistic advantage in a way because I could see him piecing Beterbiev up with the lead jab and the jab to the body. If Beterbiev got close, it's over. He knocks Kovalev out early. But I think from long range, Kovalev could knock him out. Kovalev's jab and his long right hand from long range was fantastic. One of the best power punchers from long range I've seen at light heavyweight. Yeah, Dubois isn't playing with a full deck, complete moron. Yeah, he's a bit big and dumb, isn't he? There were people saying that the fact that Usyk is number one heavyweight proves how Ali would have dominated this. Mate, Ali would have gotten knocked out in the first round by Charles Martin. I'm not even kidding. He would have. Let's be honest about it. Andy Ruiz would knock Ali out inside two. He would. He would knock Ali out inside 2 rounds. Most modern heavyweights would. Maybe Dave Allen wouldn't. Maybe Trevor Bryan wouldn't. I don't know, but most of them would. One of my good favorite fights is Larry Holmes battering Ali. Good beatdown. Yeah, Larry Holmes toyed with him and battered him. Probably could have got him out sooner if he wanted, but the two were friends, Ruiz versus Butterbean, I'd pick Butterbean. I wouldn't pick Butterbean, no. I'd give Butterbean a puncher's chance. Like, if Butterbean landed a big overhand right in the first round, he could knock him out. But I think Ruiz would outlast Butterbean. He'd probably survive a scare in the first couple of rounds. Then he would just apply pressure and stop him by, rounds 4 or 5 or something. Because Butterbean had... But I wouldn't say Butterbean had poor stamina. For a big fat guy, yeah, for an athlete, he probably had poor stamina, but for a big fat guy, he could box for 4 rounds, and he showed he could even go 10 rounds at a slow pace. But I think Ruiz can fight, or in his prime, Ruiz could fight at a faster pace for 12 rounds. So I think he would stop Butterbean in the mid rounds. But I'd give Butterbean a puncher's chance in the first couple of rounds. That's how I see that one. So I see it. Foreman was drugged against Ali. Liston took dives, and Shaver's power was overrated. Yeah, and it was that the Foreman fight was strange. The way Foreman just was slugging, like a mummy, like Ali was saying before the fight. He looked like a big mummy, just slugging, and he just ran out of gas and got knocked out. I think in a rematch, because Foreman was technically better as his career went on. I think in a rematch he'd have won by knockout. Ali was a scumbag. Yeah, he wasn't a good person. Maybe he did become a good person, but he wasn't when he was in his physical prime, Foreman's water was spiked and Ali's gloves were loaded. Yeah. Hashtag Glovegate from the Rumble in the Jungle. Shavers was a good puncher, but he isn't close to the hardest puncher of all time. People like to label him. Yeah, people only say that because Ali said it. It isn't real. He wasn't anywhere close to the biggest puncher of all time. Povetkin probably hits considerably harder, and he's not even nearly the biggest puncher of all time, you know? AJ or Miller? I go with AJ by stoppage. Miller had no defense whatsoever. At least Andy Ruiz had boxing fundamentals. Miller didn't. Miller doesn't. Miller's literally just a big fat punching bag who won based on size and stamina, you know? Yeah, it is hard to tell, like, to compare different eras punching power, you know? Yeah, I don't think so, to be honest. I think AJ would have done the same thing Dubois did, but probably got Miller out quicker. I think AJ would have won by stoppage. Old 50s and 60s boxing fights are so overhyped skill-wise, especially the heavyweight fights. The way Ali had his hands down, he would get KO'd by Usyk if they fought today. Mate, Ali was getting schooled by Henry Cooper before Henry Cooper got cut. The first fight was a flat-out robbery. Henry Cooper was robbed of a knockout win. The second fight, Henry Cooper was schooling Ali. Go and watch it. He was landing punches at will. And then Henry Cooper, obviously, because the guy had like paper thin skin, he got stopped on a cut. The same thing happened in both fights. He was winning both fights before he got stopped on the cut. Yeah, Ken Norton outboxed him as well and didn't get the decision. Ruiz should outbox Miller quite easily if Dubois could. Ruiz way better technically. Just to see his fitness, yeah. I think Ruiz has declined big time, but I think he's probably got enough left to beat Miller. So I think Ruiz on points. I don't think he'll stop him, but I think he'll win on points. In the second Joe Fraser fight, Ali did his best Lawrence Okolie impression, yeah. The first Joe Fraser fight, Ali was a punching bag. He just got battered every second of every round. And that was probably the fight that gave him Parkinson's. The second fight, he just leaned on Joe Fraser's back all night and fouled his way to a controversial victory, you know? Where's John Fury hiding? No idea. In a caravan somewhere, maybe, because he's a fighting man. He's a proper fighting man. Miller was doing nothing the whole fight versus Dubois and nearly made him quit, yeah. Yeah, Dubois doesn't have any heart. Doesn't have any heart. He's a coward. Haney is a bum with Victor Conte's best steroids in him, so imagine how much of a bum he would be without them. Yeah, yeah. Do you get rid of that snack affiliation, and what does he have left? You know, I know it's unlikely, but I have a feeling that Tank Davis could lose to Frank Martin. I mean, it's likely Martin will get caught and stay down. His defense is not that good anyway. Martin should outwork. I've never watched Frank Martin, so I've no idea, but I've heard some good things about him. And yeah, some people are taking him in that fight. So it's interesting. Interesting to see what happens. In the amateurs, I think Beterbiev beat Kovalev twice, both of the times they fought. But that's amateurs, not pro. Yeah. I mean, you can take something from that, but it doesn't always tell the full story, amateurs, you know? Because certain fighters have a more pro style, you know? Like, you could say the same about when Beterbiev fought Usyk. He hurt him to the body as an amateur, but would that happen if they fought as a pro? Who knows? Yeah, yeah, Kovalev won against Ward easily. It was a complete robbery. Yeah, definitely all these boxers are on steroids. Kids in high school take steroids, so I wouldn't doubt. Yeah, you know, if like weightlifters in high school are taking steroids, you don't think these professional athletes who have millions of dollars on the line when they compete, you don't think they're taking steroids? Again, it I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely that you can train 6 days a week doing intense training and recover just by sleeping and eating and drinking water. You need a bit extra to recover, you know? In my opinion, who is the GOAT? You mean like just the greatest fighter ever? Sven Ottke, obviously. No, no, I'm kidding. Probably Manny Pacquiao. Like resume-wise, probably Manny Pacquiao. The fact that Trevor Bryan actually has wins on his record shows how corrupt boxing is, yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's like a white-collar boxer with a bunch of fixed fights. If Trevor Bryan was around in the 60s, he would have been the dominant champion. Knock man, could you imagine that? Could you imagine like a timeline when Trevor Bryan was like the greatest fighter in the history of boxing, just an alternate universe. Trevor Bryan, undisputed. I imagine that. Are you gonna watch the UFC main event tomorrow? I don't really follow UFC. If I do watch it, it'll probably be on YouTube when it gets uploaded. Because sometimes I like to watch like the MMA fights when they get uploaded. I don't tend to follow the events though. Pray that Ali fans don't see this live. No, I hope they do. I like triggering normies. It's my speciality. Yeah, Trevor Bryan, aka the Black Homer Simpson. I don't think that's entirely fair though, because Homer Simpson had a good chin, and Trevor Bryan has a garbage chin. So that's a bit disrespectful to Homer. Ali versus Butterbean. I'm going Butterbean. I give Butterbean again. That's the same situation. I give Butterbean a puncher's chance. Say in the first 4 rounds. If it went 4 rounds, I think Ali wins probably on points or a late stoppage. But again, I give Butterbean a puncher's chance. Ali would school Klitschko and Fury on the same night. Boxing librarian and Quora. But who would win though? Ali or Shrek? Who would win? Quora. I also remember watching in the Kovalev said one of the Beterbiev fights in the amateurs was fixed against him, so who knows? Yeah, might have been. Sup Nordic. Yeah, how's it going, AMG Fresh? Good to see you, man. God bless. Who are the two biggest punchers of all time at heavyweight and pound for pound? Um, oh man, at heavyweight. It's hard to say at heavyweight. There's so many punches. Again, I know this will sound hilarious, but I honestly think just speaking about power and nothing else. I think David Price was honestly one of the hardest punching heavyweights I've ever seen. I think Vladimir Klitschko, just in terms of one punch power, one of the hardest punchers at heavyweight I've ever seen. Even a guy like Samuel Peter, that guy had like insane natural power. Kudryashov at cruiserweight, he had like just incredible. Like, it wasn't a great fighter, but incredible power. Like one punch, like he could just land a cuffing shot, and his opponents were out a lot of the time. Beterbiev, obviously, right now, might be the hardest puncher pound for pound in boxing. Man, it's Inoue's got to be up there. One of the hardest punchers pound for pound in boxing. It's hard to say who it is though. I'd have to really think about it. I'd have to like examine the durability and like the credentials of their opponents. I don't know, man. It's hard to say. You know, Tony Bell would have dominated the '60s heavyweights. I wouldn't go that far. Like he would have been successful, but I don't think he would have dominated. I mean, I definitely think he'd have won a title, but again, I don't think he would have dominated. But who knows? He might have. Oh yeah, Julian Jackson. He was a big puncher, very big puncher. Where was I? I'm losing my place in the chat here. If Fraser came out in the 15th round, Ali quit. Ali quit on his stool, and then so will they say anyway. Ali quit on his stool, and then um, bloody Fraser's corner pulled him out. Yeah, Jackson had legit power. His knockout over that fruity weirdo Harold Graham was brutal. Yeah, Harold Graham had a glass chin though. Like he was knocked out cold by Charles Brewer as well. He was one of these guys. He could be winning a fight easily, and as soon as he got caught with one right hand, he would be flat out on the canvas. Like that guy had he was actually famous for having a glass chin. I think people having Tank Davis over Duran as the best 135 pounder of all time. Who's saying that? Who's saying that Tank Davis is better than Duran? Come on. Absolute clowns, man. They have to be. You think Usyk is on roids? Yeah, I think they're all on roids. I think any top level professional athlete is on some sort of performance enhancing drugs. Golovkin could have beaten the four kings on the same night, yeah. I don't know about the same night, but I definitely think he beats all of them. I definitely think he beats all of them one at a time. The best out of the yeah, I think Duran was the most skilled out of them. Although I do think Leonard was more talented, like faster hands, more power, just a better athlete. But I think Duran in his prime was more skilled. I think so anyway. Yeah, those are the same the same dudes that picked Fulton to stop Inoue. Oh, that's hilarious. Mate, I've talked about this before, but do you know when that fight was being hyped up, like a week before it or something? Like, I made my prediction video, and I was like, I watched, I think, about 20 seconds of highlights of Fulton, and immediately I was like, I don't need to see any more. I'll make a prediction video. Inoue's gonna destroy him. And you saw the video, I was like, I even titled it. It was one of my, like, I guess you could say clickbaity, prediction videos. I titled it "Inoue will destroy Fulton," and I meant every word. And literally, when I made that prediction video, I had literally only seen about 20 seconds of highlights of Fulton, and that's all I needed to see to know that Inoue was gonna knock him out and win easily. Yeah, Trevor Bryan looks like he's fighting at zero point 0.5 times speed. Yeah, he does, like, fighting in slow motion. You watching the AB fight tonight? Yeah, yeah, shout out to Bruce, by the way. God bless you. Yeah, I'm gonna be, watching it afterwards. I won't be watching it live, I don't think, because I can't be bothered staying up, but I'm going to, watch it afterwards when it gets uploaded because 'cause I'm curious about it. I think it's interesting. I can't pick a winner. I think Blair Cobb's like I'm assuming he's the underdog, but I could see him pulling off the upset. I could. Like, it's one of them fights. The timing of it is interesting. Why do these active pros like Fury and even Usyk say Ali is the greatest? Do they have to? It's probably just PR toeing the line. If they don't, then all the normies and the casuals will get angry at them. So they've got to say Ali's the greatest. Because if you don't, they'll probably be called disrespectful or racist or whatever. So yeah, they've just got to conform to that. I wouldn't do it, but they've got to. Trevor Bryan would struggle with novices like Nick Campbell, mate. I'll go one step further. I think Nick Campbell would knock Trevor Bryan out inside of 5 rounds. I'm not even joking. You might think I'm joking. I'm honestly not. I think Nick Campbell wins easily. Honestly do. Duran was the best and Sugar Ray Leonard was second. I agree. I agree with that. Again, I think Ray Leonard was more talented and more athletic, but I think Duran was a lot more skilled. I think he was the more skilled of the two. Dorian Darch would beat up Trevor Bryan in a real fight, but he would probably take a dive like he did against Dave Allen. Yeah, if you pay him 80 grand or whatever, he'll take a dive. Can't wait for Boxing Librarian to make part 87 of Robbie Sam Langford's boxing career. Why are you having trouble sleeping? Are your sleeping pills not working? So you found something much better to put you to sleep. Kamil Sokolowski would beat all the 50s and 60s heavyweights. Yeah, probably. He probably would be too big. Cash Cannibal Ali would eat the 50s, 70s heavyweights. Yeah, but only if they're halal. Only if they're halal, like David Price must be, I guess. Yeah. I think Ali threw both. I mean, I think Liston threw both of those fights. I do. With with power, IMO, you have to consider the punches, fighters who could KO with jabs, are the guys I'd look at heavyweight right now. Probably Zhang hits the hardest. Yeah. Zhang might be the harder. Like someone mentioned earlier, I think Zhang might be the harder, like one punch knockout guy right now of the active heavyweights. He might have the best one punch power, and I would agree with that. I think that's likely. Twitter and I like Tank. Yeah. Yo. Yeah, how's it going, man? Good to see you, man. God bless you. Cash Ali is the best heavyweight Ali ever. Yeah, Cash Ali versus Muhammad Ali. Who wins? Is it possible to get to the top clean? Possible, but very, very unlikely. Very, very unlikely, I would assume. Cash Ali's best weapon is body odor. Yuck. Yeah, he looks like he's stinking, doesn't he? He does look like that. How do you think Prime Manny Pacquiao will do against Inoue? Well, prime Manny Pacquiao would be at a higher weight division than super featherweight. I think I'd say Pacquiao at his prime was from what was when he reached lightweight. I think that was him at his absolute best. But let's say that version of Pacquiao fighting a lower division to fight Inoue. Um, I think Pacquiao could outbox him. I do. Like, Inoue is more naturally talented, but I think Pacquiao could outbox him and win on points. So I would go with Pacquiao. Just a more sophisticated technician in his prime, I think. Remember back in 2020 when Daniel faced Joyce, the Triple D stock was at an all-time high. People never said he was overrated or that he sucked. In fact, many said Daniel would win. Yeah, Daniel was a big favorite going into that fight. In fact, the only person I saw picking Joyce was Precise. I don't think anybody else. I didn't pick Joyce. I picked Dubois. I kind of bought the hype a little bit, and it was more to do with that. I felt that he could capitalize on Joyce's defensive flaws, but I was very, very wrong about that. So yeah, he became, Dubois became a bit of a meme after that fight for a while, and his stock has raised because he's beat a couple of rigged fights. I would say recently, beating Jarrell Miller, a literal bum, a punching bag, and Hergovich, who just didn't want to be there, and got cheated, got headbutted to a loss. How can anyone like Tank, even when his personality, he talks like a retard? Yeah, the guy's a thug, a degenerate thug. I got no time for Tank, no time at all. Who do you think was a British level world champion? There's been loads. I mean, Richie Woodall, Nathan Cleverly, um, who else was that? Darren Barker, um, Carl Frampton. Who else? Who else was I thinking of there? Maybe Scott Quigg. There's another one I had in my mind then. Who was it? Who was it, man? There was a. I'd say Carl Froch was British level. I don't think he was world level. You know. For some reason, Cash Ali had a fan base that follows him around. He's one of the worst fighters I've seen. Bunch of Muslim wannabe gangsters. That's just because he's a big guy who probably was the head of some grooming gang in, I don't know, where's he from? What, Rotherham or some, Muslim infested shithole. And he's probably the hardest one in the group, and they go around going, "Oh yeah, he's the don of the bloody, I don't know. He's the, he's the local Asian Muslim hard man, and he likes the little schoolgirls. I don't know. I don't know what those people get up to. I'm just assuming. Yeah, I'm assuming he's the biggest one in his community, and yeah, they all rally behind him because they think he's odd. But then when they see him quit against David Price, they probably had second thoughts. Yeah, the War versus Joyce was huge. It was meant to happen before the lockdown. It ended up happening during it. I'd rather watch paint dry than watch a Broner fight. Yeah, he's not the most exciting fighter to watch, but it's fun seeing him lose. I like rewatching the Pacquiao fight from time to time where he schooled him. Broner got schooled in the Pacquiao fight. I find most people talking trash on Daniel are being hypocritical based on what they believed 3 years ago. His public perception has taken a nosedive. What are your thoughts on this, Nordic? You're on about Daniel Dubois. Well, I think people are like hyping him up too much, if truth be told. I think he's getting too much credit for what he's done. I don't think he deserves anywhere near the credit that he's getting, if truth be told. You know? The three biggest underachievers in boxing history. God, man, that's a hard question. I think Tommy Morrison could have done a lot better. I'd say he was an underachiever. If he wasn't like a party boy with a drug addiction and alcoholism, he could have done a lot more. He's got to be up there. I don't think he'd have been an elite fighter, but he could have done more. When I think about it, maybe Edwin Valero. Obviously, we know what happened to him. He definitely underachieved. Who would I put number 3? Number 3, that's a hard. Maybe Andy Ruiz because again, look, I was talking about this earlier. Andy Ruiz was able to become heavyweight champion while being literally a morbidly obese slob. Imagine what he could do if he was actually a fighter, like if he was actually an athlete, if he took care of himself and let's say he had the attitude Usyk had. Imagine what he could have done, you know? Ali even said himself later in life he wasn't the greatest. Yeah, when he had no reason to lie at that stage of his life. He had his time, you know. Dan Dubois has regressed into a cheat. You know, when he fought Joe Joyce, he was young and got outboxed. Fair enough, but he cheated because Hrgovic was going to do worse, as his defense is worse now. Yeah, at least he used to keep his hands up, like when he fought Joyce and Gorman and that. But now he just walks into right hands, and you know he just happens to be able to cheat his way through fights, like you say. And the fact that people defend it, like there was a guy on my video that I made about Dubois, where I said he was a bum and a coward and a fraud, and totally not a clickbait title or anything. And there was a guy in the comment section responding to everybody and saying, "No, Dubois was headbutting because he something about Dubois' headbutts saved Hrgovic from a brutal knockout defeat." So basically, he's insinuating that the headbutts from Dubois were a show of mercy. They were an act of mercy for Hrgovic's benefit because they saved Hrgovic from a concussive knockout loss. Apparently, according to this guy, that's the level of fanboy delusion we're talking about in boxing, man. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't even take the guy seriously. Like, read my responses to that guy's comments. I just had fun with him because I couldn't, for the life of me, lower myself to that level of delusion, and I couldn't humor those comments and dignify them with a proper response because I would lose so many brain cells trying to rationalize it. The fact that Daniel Dubois was headbutting Hrgovic out of an act of mercy so that he didn't have to knock him out, and that it benefited Hrgovic. For Hrgovic to be headbutted numerous times in the fight, and for Hrgovic to end up with 3 bad cuts and to be wrongfully stopped by a referee, that was somehow the best outcome for him, according to this Daniel Dubois fan, according to this guy. And we should be giving Daniel Dubois credit for that. I don't know. I'm losing brain. You can probably hear me slurring my speech. I'm losing brain cells even trying to comprehend that in my mind. So imagine me reading these comments and trying to think of a rational response and trying to take them seriously. It can't be done. I don't have that level of IQ. I can't figure out how to make that make sense. That's literally like saying, you know, Lenny McLean stamping on Gypsy Bradshaw's head and having him be taken out on a stretcher. That was like an act of mercy because he didn't want to like humiliate him in a stand-up boxing match or something. That's like you guys know where I'm going with this. Like I'm going nowhere with this. I'm turning into a retard. I'm turning into an idiot by reading those comments. Comments on YouTube from normies are turning me into a normie. They're turning me into one of them. Like, you can't beat them, join them. I'm losing brain cells just thinking about this. I can't even move on from how delusional these comments are, and how much of a retard, how much of a degenerate you'd have to be to unironically make those comments. Oh man, I'm moving on from that. Moving on from that. Where was I? Yeah. Don Charles has taught Dubois to fight dirty, just like he did for Chisora. Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to Hawker Mustang. Good to see you here, brother. Every time, man. Yeah, boxing librarian is very, very terrible. Yeah, Jugabum probably would beat Dubois again. I don't see why not. He schooled him in the first fight behind the jab. He could just emulate what he did in the first fight, you know? Yeah. I've heard that theory quite a lot that Crawler may have used loaded gloves, and it makes sense because again he wasn't a puncher at domestic level, and then he knocked out Barroso, and yeah, he looked all of a sudden to be a puncher, and then his power disappeared again. It was weird. Crazy how many British level world champions there have been. Stuart Hall Haskins, Paul Butler, Burnett, Lee Selby, Billum Smith, Nicky Cook, Alex Arthur, Ricky Burns. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's crazy. Like again, this I think a lot of it's due to politics. Like Alex Arthur, he was a good domestic fighter, but I wouldn't say he was like world class. Same with Nicky Cook. I wouldn't say he was world class. Obviously, Billum Smith's not world class. Paul Butler's not world class. Again, these guys, they were hardworking, solid professionals. I'd say like British European level guys who, due to the right political situation and the right hard work and effort, were able to overachieve and were able to become world champion. So yeah, I would definitely say that they were British level world champions. If AJ take sorry, if Ruiz took the second fight seriously, and would he make AJ quit again? It's hard to say. I don't think so because I think AJ got the tactics right for the rematch, but I do think he would have given himself a much better chance, and he maybe would have dropped AJ, or he maybe would have won some of the later rounds and applied more pressure, given a better effort, and landed more body shots. Maybe he would have crowded AJ on the inside, given him a few scary moments by landing some hooks and uppercuts, and I think he would have made it a close, competitive fight. But I don't think he would have won, no. I think he would have lost a very close, very competitive decision. Would I favour Bo today in today's heavyweight division? Against most contenders, I would. I wouldn't favour him against Usyk or Fury. I think both of them would outbox him. Far too skilled and far too athletic. Can't believe Dubom has fanboys. Again, that's what I was thinking. Of all the fighters to fanboy for, why would you choose Daniel Dubois? Why would you put all your eggs in that basket? Like you could fanboy for, like, I don't know, maybe Crawford, Spence, or someone like that. Why would you fanboy for Daniel Dubois? Why? A guy who's done nothing of note in his career. I just don't get it. Yeah, Hergovich wasn't even hurt once. Not from a punch. He was hurt from headbutts for sure, I'd imagine. So yeah, he shouldn't have been stopped. He shouldn't have been. Definitely shouldn't have been. Probably should have been a DQ. Fighting on a Marrowbomb looks dirty. I look at their opponents like they were caught at the red light district, yeah. Bo would lose to most top 10 today. I think he would beat some of them, but he would lose to the best ones, the top ones. Yeah, and Andrew Gallotta and Josh Warrington are underachievers, I agree. Gallotta should have been heavyweight champion when he beat Chris Bird and didn't get it. And he could have even beaten Mike Tyson if he didn't just quit for no reason. Uh, Josh Warrington, I think, should have beaten everybody he's lost to. I agree. He could have beaten Lara. He could have beaten Lopez. I think he definitely could have beaten Lara. Like, I think he has underachieved. I do. British fighters have solid fundamentals and more heart than other European and South American fighters. Some of those Mexican bums have them by the arse, though. Yeah, that's just the thing. Like, because Mexico is such a rough country where everything, like everybody there seems to be able to fight. You bring like some like journeyman Mexican over to the UK to fight like a top British prospect, and the British prospects get knocked out and beaten up and stopped, or they end up quitting. It's crazy. Like that. That's just the thing. Mexicans beating British fighters has become a bit of a meme at this point, hasn't it? It was funny because you remember when Josh Taylor fought when he fought Ramirez, and people were saying a lot of people who don't know like England versus Scotland, they don't know the rivalry in that. They were saying like, "Oh, Taylor's going to get knocked out because he's British, and Mexicans always smash British fighters." And then we was like, "Well, technically Taylor's Scottish, so that doesn't count." I thought that was funny, and like, I remember some of us were saying on here, "Look, us British fans, we're due a win in one of these Britain versus Mexico rivalries. We need one of our guys to regain our honor, and Josh Taylor was the man to do it. I thought that was quite funny. I really did. Tepper KO of Pricey. David Price was spicy. May we have your thoughts on that and Turkish fighters? Nathan Gorman could have beaten Dubois. Yeah, that Tepper knockout was sickening. Like that left hook, the way he set it up too, he like rolled under and came up with a left hook, and Price made the mistake of pulling back straight. Brutal knockout. Um, and Nathan Gorman, I don't think Gorman would have beaten Dubois. I never rated Gorman. Like Gorman had fast hands, but he had no jab and no defense. So no, I personally don't think he would have won. Yeah, British fighters do seem to struggle with Mexicans. It just seems to be like a style that's a problem for them, you know? Warrington should have never signed with Eddie Hearn, ended up fighting Mauricio Lara instead of fighting Kanzu. Then he put Kanzu versus Lee Wood. Yeah. Yeah, what Warrington should have beaten Lee Wood as well, but he fought like an idiot and got himself knocked out. And I agree. I think Warrington would have beaten Kanzu in a unification back then. I definitely do. So Daniel Dubois' dad made comments under a different name. Could you imagine it? Could you imagine that was Daniel Dubois' dad trying to justify him? You know. Is there a fighter that you thought was a fraud, a hype job that proved you wrong? Think about that. Was there? I don't think there was actually. I mean, I did think Inoue was a bit overrated when I first saw him. I didn't think he was a hype job or a fraud, but I thought he was a fighter who wouldn't go beyond like high world level. Obviously, he went on to prove me wrong. But ever since the second Donaire fight, I thought Inoue was very good. But prior to that, I thought he was overrated. Aside from that, I can't really think of any who I thought were hype jobs and proved me wrong. Yeah, I can't really think of any. I can think of plenty of fighters I thought were great and turned out not to be, but or at least didn't achieve their potential. But no, I can't think of any I thought were hype jobs that proved not to be. I'll think about it. I don't think so though. Don't think so. But I'll think about it. If that's the case, his dad deserves to be rinsed along with his cheat son. Yeah, yeah. The bum's dad is apparently comment under your video defending Double. Do you reckon that's his dad? Do you know what? I'm gonna not right now, but later on, I'm gonna go and look at those comments and I'm gonna check that account out and see if it's suspicious. Like, is that Daniel Dubois' dad? That wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, that wouldn't surprise me if that was Daniel Dubois' dad. It wouldn't. Speaking of underachievers, Ismael Barroso should have been a multi-weight champion. Guy was and is still very good. Yeah, he was robbed against what's his name? I think he was robbed against Rolly Romero, and then he went on to beat Hara Davis impressively, first round knockout. The bum's dad shouldn't be allowed near the corner, isn't that against the rules? Yeah, he shouldn't be. Tapia is an underachiever. Could have done so much more if he didn't have drug problems. Yeah. Johnny Tapia, he was a great fighter. Troubled, but a great fighter. Could have done so much more, I think. People must be trolling you, Nordic Warrior. Yeah. I would hope so, because if they're being serious, that's embarrassing. It really is. Dubois absolutely deserves criticism for fighting dirty, but if the ref is going to let him foul, then why would he fight clean? Exactly, the ref should have done his job. I mean, I'm not going to credit Dubois for that, but I'm definitely going to criticize the ref for not doing his job. You know, it's probably Spencer Farron coming under an alias. He's commented on one of my videos before, Spencer Farron, so that's possible. He knows my channel. Tyson Fury has a strong core against body punches, I think, based on training footage, yeah. Oh, it's probably because he's got a big spare tire, so they just bounce off him. It's like the Blob. Yeah, you ever seen the Blob from X-Men? And they punch him in the belly, like in the body, and he's just like, nothing moves the Blob. That's what Tyson Fury is like, taking body shots, you know? Yeah, Dubois having fanboys is proof society is finished. Absolutely. Because what sane self-respecting individual would be a fanboy of Daniel Dubois? I mean, that would be like being a fanboy of Kevin Johnson or a fanboy of Chisora or something. Like, it's so unfathomable. It's so baffling. I don't understand it. Yeah, Dubois, future BBC Sports Personality of the Year award. Do you know what? I would be surprised if he wasn't at least considered. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. Wouldn't surprise me one bit if he was considered. Dubois and Wilder wouldn't even have a boxing license. Even fireman Jim Flynn would KO these odds in one round. Do you know, I've never watched Donald Curry fight, so I don't know. I know he was an all-time great and all that, but I've never watched him fight, so I'm not sure. I would take Usyk, Fury, Zhang, Joshua, and Parker, Bacoli, and Caballero over Bo. I wouldn't favour Caballero, Bacoli over Bo. I would favour Joshua, Zhang, Parker, Fury, and Usyk, though. I would. Not all definite results, though. Bo would have a chance in all of them. Yeah, I agree. But Bo was technically good, and he was versatile. He could fight inside. He could fight outside. I think he was. I think he was talented. I do. Flawed, but talented. I was very surprised when the ref stopped the Hrgovic versus Dubois fight. Hrgovic could have continued for sure. Yeah, and but the thing is, he shouldn't have had to continue with those cuts. It should have gone to the cards, and Hrgovic should have been ahead because he was outboxing him. He was outlanding him. You know. Since a Hrgovic fight was stopped on cuts. So should have gone to the scorecards. When David Price battered Dave Allen, it was a great night for boxing. I loved that. I was so happy. It's weird. At that point in time, I couldn't stand Dave Allen, and I was so happy that David Price won that. I was so happy for David Price that he got a big win, you know? Do you think that Hearn's going to bring his A team for the next 5v5? Canelo boots AJ. He couldn't afford it. He couldn't afford to send Canelo and AJ to it. Unless it, like, the Saudis put up like hundreds of millions for it, you know? AJ versus Klitschko was an early stoppage. It's funny that fight doesn't have a reputation for it, but it's true. Yeah, because when that fight was stopped, AJ was throwing shots, but he was gassing, and Klitschko was like parrying them away and slipping them. So yeah, definitely shouldn't have been stopped. Who are the dirtiest fighters currently in boxing? Daniel Dubois has got to be one of them right now. Chisora's still fighting, so he's got to be one of them. I know Nick Ball was quite dirty a couple of fights ago. I wouldn't say he was one of the worst. Shakur Stevenson, absolutely horrendous dirty fighter. Errol Spence, habitual low blower. Haney, constant clincher, constant rabbit punches, constant low blows, constant spoiling, constant running, constant slapping. I think Haney's one of the worst dirty fighters also. Haney having fanboys is even more concerning for society. Yeah, because why would he have like, he can't even sell tickets. His fights are all boring. There's nothing about him that's interesting or remotely entertaining, yet somehow he has internet fans defending him all the time, you know? Daniel Dubuc has been watching footage of Ward versus Kessler. Yeah, that's probably where he got his inspiration for that performance. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I could see some Chisora fans. Yeah, there are some Chisora fans. I mean, I don't know how, but there are some somehow. Canelo is not a good 168. He isn't even top 5 of his era. Benavidez, Morale, Mobili, Iglesias are definitely better. Someone else will come up. But Canelo's fights aren't real, so it doesn't matter. They just pay these guys off, and you know he gets to win against anyone. You know. Bacoli gonna smoke that fraud, Jared. I'm 23, Anderson. I was 23 years ago. Probably about Luis Ortiz's age, imagine. Mobili beat Gongara, who would probably beat Canelo. Yeah, probably in a real fight. Yeah, the Tyson Fury cut was way worse, and they didn't stop it. Because again, when you're the A side, they don't stop you. They stop you when you're the B side, you know? When you're the A side, they let you continue. Canelo in his absolute prime was barely world level. Now he's slow beyond belief. He's a bulked up bodybuilder. He has no legs, and he doesn't train, but somehow he's pound for pound. I'll tell you how. Fixed fights. That's how he's pound for pound, fixed fights. What do you think is most overrated quality in boxing? A lot of people think it's power. Well, no, power's a necessary quality in boxing, I would say. Uh, the most overrated quality, the ability to win stare downs, because whenever someone wins a stare down, people pick them to win. I don't know. That's a hard question. That's kind of a meta question. I don't really know. Um, I don't really know how to answer that one. I don't. Overrated quality in boxing. I don't know, man. I don't know. Underrated fights chat. Yeah, we were talking about this in my other stream. I think my last one. But for me, the most underrated fight ever is what do you call it? Thomas Adamek versus Steve Cunningham. That the first one. That's the best fight I've ever seen. Amazing fight. Amazing fight. The best punch technique. Do you know? I think the best punching technique I've ever seen. Just punching technique. I'm not talking about anything else. Just punching technique. The ability to turn over a punch is probably Triple G. Because again, Triple G, like in his prime, he had that thing where, see, even if you have your guard up, he would like turn over his knuckle to where it would land just at the top of your guard on the top of your head, and it would land with just the perfect amount of explosiveness and the perfect amount of leverage, and he was able to just knock guys out with shots to the the temple, the high part of the head. And he was just so accurate, like one of the most accurate jabs ever. His left hook was second to none at middleweight. I honestly think Triple G had the best punch technique I've ever seen. Now, I'm not saying he was the best fighter I've ever seen. I think he had the best punch technique I've ever seen. A close second might be Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko might be a close second. Imagine if Joshua versus Klitschko fight was allowed to continue. Klitschko might have come back and scored a dramatic 12-round KO after getting off the canvas 3 times in the fight. Hey, it's possible. Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. Who is Gongora? No idea. Andrade beat Koke, who would probably beat Canelo type shit. I don't know. Would he? No idea. I watched him knock out Akhmedov southpaw with power. Yeah, I didn't see that, I don't think. That guy Hatman didn't even mention Dubois headbutts in one of his vids about the fight. Of course he didn't. I think we know why, because he's a bomber clot. That's why. The guy in the comments could be Hatman. Yeah, it could be actually. Could be. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Hatman would bother coming onto my channel. I think he'd have PTSD at getting owned in debates on Facebook. But yeah. Oh well. Fixed fights, bro. At least this channel likes Arthur Abraham. Okay, so we got a smart ass here. What you trying to say? What you trying to say exactly? I'm sure you'll clarify that comment in your next one, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know what you're insinuating there. I'm sure you'll tell me. Um, hey, this thing's going slow. Can't read that comment. All right, here we go. Warren said the 3 million bonus was being spread right through Queensborough Promotions. Fighters should get the lot. If you agreed. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like the fighters do the work, and then Frank is just like cha-ching, like he just takes all the money for himself, or just gives it to the company. That is funny. That is funny. To be fair, like without him, they wouldn't have got the opportunity. But I do think the fighters should get it. The ones who won the money on the night, they should get it. 1 second, let me get my charger. Okay, that's the charger in. One second. I shat myself then. My phone started talking. I'm like, what? I don't know how that happened. I had my phone in my hand and all of a sudden it was playing a YouTube video. And I'm like, how did it even get on the bloody internet? That was scary. One second. Just there we go. I forgot to turn the charger on at the wall. Now it's on. Alright, where was I? Yeah, of course Hatman won't mention the Dubois headbutts because he's black. Because he's black, blackety black, y'all. And he's black, y'all. Yeah, I'm sure it has nothing to do with that. Zhang or Vlad, who's the harder puncher? Zhang might be like more naturally heavy handed, but I think Vlad has much better punching technique. Therefore, he probably does hit harder. And since Vlad has more stamina, he can hit hard over the course of a 12-round fight. Zhang can only get full power early. I think Vlad could hit just as hard in the 12th round as he could in the first on some occasions, you know. Hatman predicts 100 different outcomes, which one, when one of them comes true, he takes credit for it. Yeah, he's like, if this happens, or that happens, or that happens, or that happens, or that happens, none of it would surprise me. And then the fight happens, whatever way it goes. See, I predicted this. I said this would happen. Therefore, he has a perfect prediction record. Hi, finally, I catch you on a live. Been a long minute. Don't know if you remember me. Yeah, how's it going, man? God bless you. Of course, I remember you. You're the famous boxing promoter of Matchroom Sport. Of course, I remember you. How you doing? It's an honor to meet you. Matthew Hatton must have a better chin than Golovkin. Well, he took Canelo's punches. He took Canelo's punches, so must be, you know. Anyone else found it suspicious? Triple G only moved to 168 after Paul Smith had retired. Oh yeah, yeah. While Smigger was at 168, Triple G wouldn't get a look in. You know, he wanted nothing to do with it. Stayed well away from it. And you notice as well, Kovalev never moved down to 168, did he? While Smigger was there, you know. I wonder why, eh? Yeah, Triple G. He had no intention of moving up then. I watched Hatman's Vlad versus Povetkin after fight review again, and it's so funny. Yeah, it's the funniest mental breakdown I've ever seen on the internet. How he didn't become a lol cow after that, I've no idea. But it is what it is. Triple G never tried 175 either, in case Fatso Paul came back. Yeah, like if Paul Smith came back at 175, Triple G don't want to risk it. That's why he stayed at 140 for so long. How wide was Edward? How wide was Sky before you slid up in there and Frank had drilled in because he beat the 5v5? That's disturbing. Hatman would have loved when Gay J said, "Don't stop it, don't shop in their shops, in it, bruv." Yeah, because an upset wouldn't surprise me. Hey Nordic, have you watched Murmajon at Medaliev? He's a super bantamweight, probably the only half challenging fighter for Inoue at 122. Yeah, I've not watched much of him, but I know a lot about him. Yeah, and I know he's he's considered one of the opponents for Inoue, and I agree. By the way, even though he had that loss to Paulus, I think he might be a tougher fight stylistically for Inoue. So I'd agree that's probably his toughest challenge at that weight. You know. I'd agree with that. Wait, where was I? What do you think's one of the worst mandatory challenges of all time? Well, one of the worst has got to be Bermain Stavern for Deontay Wilder in the rematch. He had one fight since the first fight, and it was a fight against Derek Rossi, a journeyman, where he got dropped and apparently got a gift decision, and he somehow became mandatory. That's got to be one of the worst. Trying to think any more. That's the one that comes to mind. I know a lot of people will say Kevin Bizier. He became kind of a meme for being a low level mandatory. But I think he could box a bit. He just wasn't world class. There's a lot of low level mandatories. What do you mean with fixed Canelo fights? Are you talking about the robberies? How this guy's new, because he didn't fight Benavidez, blah 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 blah. Mate, I've made many many videos about Canelo in the past, and yeah, I'm sick of talking about it. Look, go and watch. Precise made a video after the Kovalev fight, right? It was like a 2-hour video, film study, slow motion, all that good stuff. Go and watch that. Go on to Fight Film's channel and just type in Canelo Kovalev and find the 2-hour video and watch that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about after watching that, then I don't know what to tell you. Is what it is. Any chance that idiot Ben Shalom promotes in Saudi? I don't think the Saudis would want anything to do with him. He's too boring, and he's got those soulless eyes that just freak you out when you look at him. Vlad's knockout of Eddie Chambers was satisfying. As Chambers was trying to survive, then he got knocked out right at the end. Yeah, Chambers tried to spoil his way through that fight. He was grabbing Klitschko and trying to tie him up and running. And then right at the end, it was funny because right before the end of that fight, isn't that the fight where Manny Stewart said to Vladimir, he was like, knock this bum out. And then Vladimir was like, fine. He went out there in the 12th round. And right at the end of the 12th round, 5 seconds before the end of it, Klitschko just jumps in with a big massive left hook, catches him in the temple. He's out cold. That was a clinical knockout. Clinical knockout. Wasn't there rumors that Hearn was found crying in the bathroom? Or Smith after the fight? Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he got pretty much humiliated, didn't he? So, yeah, wouldn't surprise me. He wiped his ass in the toilet with Saudi money. Yeah. Frank was probably smoking that money, innit? Rolling cigars with the Saudi notes, innit? Can imagine. The alias account might actually be Smigger. Oh, it might be. It might be, Imagine that. Wouldn't surprise me. I honestly, I was going to back Warren 5-0, change of mind. Yeah. The mob created boxing. Well, they certainly ran boxing. They certainly did. I wish the old hat man comes back. What you mean you get me, bruv? In it, fam. You mean that hat man, not him using his real voice, the way he used to talk when he was pretending to be a gangster. That one, Smigger beats Kovalev, Beterbiev, and Triple G unless the fight's in Germany where he would get robbed. Yeah, it's disgusting how they robbed me in Germany. You have to knock him out to get a draw in Germany. I'm calling the police because you said something to me on Twitter. You insulted me on Twitter. I don't understand. Do you remember that when Paul Smith called the police because someone said something to him on Twitter? I don't understand how his surname is Shalom. Makes no sense. It's probably a fake name. It's probably a stage name. Don't a lot of these people like David Diamante. That's not his real name. He's Greenblatt or something. Yeah, it's hard to tell who's the hardest puncher in boxing history. It's hard to tell. You really need to do a lot of due diligence to determine that, and it still might not be right. Even if you were to get one of them punch machines where you measure people's power, like Ivan Drago, even with one of them, the results would probably be inconclusive. I mean, you could get Smigger to go first. He could hit it, and then he could hit it so hard that it breaks. And then everybody else that goes on it gets an inaccurate reading. Could easily happen. Especially with the power of Smigger, Marlon Tapales was criminally underrated going into that fight. Almost everyone thought Inoue would take him out within 3. Yeah. Well, I personally didn't think that. I thought he would give Inoue problems. I didn't think he would win, obviously. I thought he'd get stopped. But, yeah, I thought Inoue would win handily, but I did say several times on the build up to that fight that it would be a much tougher fight and a much more difficult fight than the Stephen Fulton fight. Stephen Fulton, I didn't rate one bit. Complete hype job. But yeah, I thought Tapales would be a game tough challenger. but didn't think he would win. Yeah. But yeah, he gave it a good go. He did better than I thought, don't get me wrong. Be back in a second, I'm just got a toilet. Okay, where was I? Where was I? I tried to watch a Hatman video the other day to see what he was saying, but it was nothing but waffle. I made sure to turn on my ad blocker for his video. Oh yeah, I use ad blocker too. Listen, you use ad blocker for my videos too. I if you want to, like, I totally endorse ad blocker. I don't think there should even be ad blocker. I mean, I don't think there should even be adverts on YouTube. They're a pain in the ass. I hate them. Like, it's you see, every time I see an advert, it makes me seethe. It makes me so angry. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. I'm like, get that off my screen, you know. So yeah, I totally support the use of ad blocker. I totally do. I miss the days when YouTube didn't have adverts. It was better. But yeah, I don't know why you'd watch a Hatman video for any other reason other than to see him have a meltdown, you know? Do you feel like Javonte Davis is overrated by a lot of people? I mean, the guy is placed higher than Beterbiev in most pound for pound league. Yeah, well, that says it all, doesn't it? The fact you'd even put that guy anywhere near a pound for pound list with his lack of ability and his terrible resume, I don't know how you could even justify that. I really don't. How could you? Seriously, like, what has he done? He's like a 3 division regular champion. He's only been like a legit world champion once, and that was against Pedraza, who was severely weight drained, in my opinion, or at least he looked it. I think Manwell Char has the WBA. Yeah, he does. He'll be heading for Saudi. Well, I'm hoping that they reschedule the Kubrat Pulev fight. I want to see that. To me, that's like the big heavyweight fight. That's the one I'm most because again, it's like a meme fight. I love it. I want to see that in Bulgaria, Char versus Pulev. I want to see it. Hopefully, it wins. I mean, hopefully Pulev wins. I'm rooting for him. I want to see Pulev become like heavyweight champion. That would be based. Initial thoughts: Madrimov versus Crawford. I've always rated Madrimov, but I haven't properly broken down the fight. It's an interesting fight. Interesting fight. I think. Well, Crawford's got to be the favourite just because it's Crawford. He's the guy. He's the A side. He's the guy who's going to have all the protection in America. But Madrimov's a big guy, can punch, he's strong, doesn't have a lot of experience from the pros, but he's naturally quite talented. So if he pulled off the upset, I'm going to sound like Hatman here, but it wouldn't surprise me. Like, an upset wouldn't surprise me. So now see what happens if he pulls off the upset there, Madrimov, and he wins it. I can make a video now, and I can see, I told you this would happen. I predicted this. And then you all better kiss my ass for predicting it, even though I didn't, you know? Yeah, go watch Fight Film's videos about that. Like, watch the 2-hour one where he shows how he threw the fight. Is there a fighter before you were born that you would love to have seen fight? For me, it's George Foreman. Oh, I would have loved to see George Foreman fight. Absolutely. I would have loved to have seen Rocky Marciano. That would have been badass. You know, Rocky Marciano crouching and getting inside on these heavyweights, breaking them down and knocking them out. That would have been great to watch. Um, yeah, yeah, I'd love to see him. Vlad's first couple of losses haunted him. Um, I don't know about that, to be honest. I think Vlad got over them quite well, pretty easily. Like I don't think they affected him that bad at all. You know, I really don't. Where was I? Tank Davis. If Tank Davis loses at some point, don't be surprised if he gets his degenerate mates from the hood to kill his opponent. Yeah, he seems the type, doesn't he? Like he'd be that guy who you'd kick his ass in a fight, even though he started it, and he'd come back with a knife. You know, like Clarissa Shields said she did when she got knocked out by that Latvian guy, and rightfully so. She deserved it. She deserved to get knocked out. Beterbiev has nearly become undisputed and beaten a whole bunch of good fighters on top of this. He was literally a boogeyman at 175. To be a KO machine boogeyman is an achievement. Yeah, it's more than Javante Davis has ever achieved. Way more. Germany. You can't get a decision in Germany. Kind of funny when you search Paul Smith boxer in Google. Boxer shorts come up as the first result. Oh, Paul Smith's living the life, man. He's a celebrity, isn't he? He'll never be forgotten. He's a celebrity. Who remembers when Curtis Woodhouse went to a guy's house who was trolling him? Yeah, I remember that. I wish he would have come to my house. I would have set about him and posted it online for all to see. Mate, I would slap the shit out of Curtis Woodhouse. Let's see if Curtis Woodhouse came to my house talking shit and trying to act hard. I'm a boxer and you're an internet tough guy troll and I'm gonna do you in and expose you. I'd have bitch slapped him and laughed in his face. Like, do you remember when Willie Lemon beat the piss out of him? Do you know what? Do you know what annoys me as well? I was going to upload that fight. I had I had a Blu-ray of that fight. I bought it off some like bootleg website years ago, and I had a full card that had that fight on it, and I was going to upload it, but then the flipping thing broke. The disc broke, so I couldn't do it, sadly. But yeah, I had one of the few recordings of that fight. I was going to upload it. It was in Glasgow. Yeah, Curtis Woodhouse. It's weird. That fight's a majority decision, but it wasn't close. Like Willie Lemon beat the piss out of Curtis Woodhouse and dropped him twice and won easily. Wasn't even competitive. Wasn't even close. I got the job because of Nordic and Johnny Boy. Awesome. Yeah, you got plenty of wisdom from listening to our stream, and then you went and got the job. You know, it's I can totally believe that. What do you think about Sugar Ray Robinson? Great fighter in his day. One of the best. Great fighter in his day. Inoue should avoid America. Yeah. At some point he will. At some point he will. If he fights in America, so he makes plenty of money in Japan. Just fight in Japan. God bless. Yeah, God bless you too, Durden. Oh, it's good to see you, by the way. How's it going, man? God bless you. Manuel Char is dangerous. No, yeah, no, Manuel Char. I don't know. Delboy was talking about this before. Like we were talking about this on. I think we talked about this on Anthony's stream. How is Manuel Char like? How has that guy been able to stay relevant all these years? How? Like it's shocking, man. Like because the guy's a bum. Yeah, he's somehow so like still relevant and he's still a world champion. I just don't get it, man. I enjoy reading the normie comments on his video. Yeah. The normie comments are fun for a while, but eventually they just annoy me, so I can't read them for very long, you know. I miss the days where you could swear in the comments and the content was less restricted. Now it's watered down crap reaction videos. Yeah. I miss the days when you could go into a video and it was just N-word, 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 and just people going back and forth, like insulting each other's races and calling each other faggots and all that. Like I miss that day. The internet was so much better when it was like the wild, wild west, when everybody was a tough guy and
a pit fighter, a backyard pit fighter who was undefeated. I miss those days. Everybody was like a kung fu Tai Chi master who could blow your head up with their sonic boom. I miss the old days of the internet. It was awesome. How many hours you train for? I don't know. I'm sure he'll tell you if he's here. Does Nordic have a big Corey? Nah, I can't lie. It's we'll go with average size. We'll go with that. I don't think Turkey will allow that bum Char into his country. Turkey will be like, listen, I have standards. He's coming nowhere. He can take that WBA regular title and ram it. He's not coming here. For the Giga Championship of the world. Yeah. Manuel Char, like the Giga Char, they can fight for the Giga Championship of the world. Josh Taylor should move up and fight Conor Benn. He can beat Conor Benn. He can beat pretty easily, I wouldn't say I'm shredded, but naturally I can keep a low body fat. I would just do what's best for you, body. Once you exercise, have a good diet and life, you're like, yeah, exactly. Like, I wouldn't even worry about weight. Just try and just cut out all the junk food, all the crap, and just live a healthy lifestyle, and your body will naturally find whatever weight it's supposed to be, Yo, just finished work. Yeah, how's it going, Apology? God bless you. Tucking into some fish and chips. How's everyone doing? Oh, man, you're making me hungry. I had pasta, cheese, and tuna today. It was beautiful, but yeah, fish and chips would be nice. Actually, I was talking about earlier, see the profile picture there? It's Rossi. That day that I went there, I had some of the most beautiful fish and chips I've ever had in my life at the Chippy and Rossi. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Very, very nice it was. Triple R, aka Triple Venables, aka Triple Grapist, needs to grow up. Certainly does. And needs to stay away from children, I'd say. Mate, I swear, if I lose that glass one more time, I mean, how can it disappear? I'm sitting in the same place the whole time, and the bloody thing keeps disappearing. Let me turn my bloody light on my phone. There it is. How did it get over there? See, I don't even know how it got over there because I'm sitting over here. It's like moving itself. What's going on here? Oh yeah, by the way, I'm a rebel. I might have shown you this before. Wait there, let me get it on camera. You guys can see my Giga Chad face and that. I'm drinking Iron Brew out a Coke cup because I'm an absolute rebel. I'm an absolute rebel. And I don't play by the rules. I don't play by anybody's rules. So I can drink Iron Brew out a Coke cup because I'm such a badass, That's because I'm hard. I'm so hard, I make hard people look not hard. All right, I'm putting it down here. There's literally nowhere else it can go. It better not disappear. All right. Get that off so you guys don't have to be terrified of seeing my face in the dark. It's like telling ghost stories, Stupid phone. Every time I touch that phone, it does everything but I want, but the thing I'm trying to get it to do. All right, right. Imagine seeing Sonny Liston knocking teeth out of his opponent with a jab, and then watching the guy fall flat on the canvas. Yeah, Sonny Liston used to knock opponents out with a jab early in his career. He did. That guy had a credible jab. I seen Tommy Morrison knocked a guy out with a jab too early in his career. I think Sonny Liston, used to do it more regularly though. I think that guy was only stopped once before he faced Liston. Yeah, the guy had great power. Like Sonny Liston was a massive puncher in his prime. He had an interesting story too. You know what I find interesting about Sonny Liston? There's theories that he was like way older than he actually was listed as. Like some people say when he fought I don't know if I believe this personally, but some people say that when he fought Ali, he was already in his 40s, which is interesting because he did look a lot older than his official age. But he did have a very hard upbringing, so that's not uncommon. But again, he could have been like the original Luis Ortiz. It wouldn't have been difficult to fake like a birth certificate that in that day and age. People still do it today, so it's interesting. Manuel Char isn't a good fighter, but he's a funny guy. Yeah, Manuel Char is funny. Like, it's funny. Manuel Char, like, I've always felt the same way about him. He's not a very good fighter. I'd say he's journeyman level, like high journeyman. But he had this thing about him, this swagger about him. Like, he would show up to press conferences, he would show up to weigh-ins, he'd show up to fights, he'd show up to events, and he would like go right up to the face of like the champion. Like, he'd go right up to Vladimir Klitschko and be like, "You're next. I'm gonna destroy you. I'm gonna kick your ass." He'd go up to Tyson Fury, get right in his face. Music would start playing in the background, and it would be Manuel Char's theme song. Like, the guy has a theme song. He actually, Manuel Char has a theme song. He actually does. And he would go up to the opponent and get right in their face and be like, "You haven't fought Manuel Char yet. You haven't proven yourself. I'm the guy who's the real heavyweight champion." And he would do so like unironically with like no self-awareness whatsoever. And there was something I always found sincere about that. So I've always found Manuel Char funny. And the fact that now he walks around with his heavyweight title belt, that WBA regular title, calling himself the real heavyweight champion. And again, I appreciate the absurdity and the audacity of Manuel Char and how he goes about things. You have a chance to fight the best in the world. Yeah. By any chance, have you seen Imam Katayev, silver medalist, resides in Australia, represents Russia? No. He fought he KO'd Bolotniks. Well, that's a good win for that stage of his career because Bolotniks is quite tough and durable. So yeah, that's very interesting, I must say. What was your boldest take that people gave you shit for, but you were proven right in the end? One of them was when I said that Usyk was going to school AJ and win on points, and I had hordes and hordes and hordes and hordes of normies telling me that he was going to get smashed in 5 rounds because he's too small, and he struggled with Chisora. That was probably one of them. When I said Fury was going to smash Wilder in the second fight, when I said that Fury was going to be too big, too strong, too determined, he was going to maul him on the inside, and he was going to knock him out in the mid rounds. And again, it was Wilder's going to sleep him. Fury's fat, this, that, and the other. You don't know shit about boxing. You's just racist. Wilder's the biggest punching heavyweight of all time. Like, again, go and look at my videos in the build up to the second Fury Wilder fight. That was quite. People forget. Nobody. Like, I think I was the only one in the YouTube boxing community who picked Fury to knock out Wilder. So yeah, that was quite a bold one. I think let me think. There was a few more. Let me think. When I said Sandor Martin would beat Mikey Garcia, that was one of my better picks. I picked Sandor Martin to beat Mikey Garcia. That was a big upset. Nobody else agreed there. I was the only one that said that. But it's interesting because you take all this into consideration. You could put all that aside, and simply because I picked Fury to be Usyk, I don't know shit about boxing, apparently. I mean, all that other stuff I said there, you can take that into consideration. But literally, just because I got one prediction wrong in a big fight, it's it means I don't know shit about boxing, apparently. Rossi, where is that? It has good and fish and chips. I need to go. It's spelled Rothsey, but it's pronounced Rossi. I don't know why, but yeah, Rothsey, but it's pronounced Rossi. It's an island in Scotland. It's near Wemyss Bay. if you know where Wem's Bay is, it's like an area on the coast. That's you get the boat from there, and it takes you to Rossi. In fact, I'll show you guys. What? One second. I'll show you guys a picture. Um, I'll see because I've got a few of them on my computer. One sec. I'll see if I can get another picture of Rossi where I was. I'm sure I've got some on here. Wait there. This one here. That's me on the boat. That's me on the boat going to Rossi, looking very pleased with myself for some reason. I'll get another one. Because you can't really see anything. I'm trying to get one with like the scenery. One sec. Because I took quite a few. Here's one there. This is where like me and my missus, we walked up to the top of this hill, and it's beautiful, man. There's like see Rossi, it's so cut off from the rest of the world. It's beautiful. It's like filled with like really old fashioned churches and like really really beautiful scenery, man. See if I can. There was. I'm sure there's somewhere I have like the mountains in the background. It's breathtaking. Like seriously, if you guys have never been to the island of Rossi, I'd recommend it. It's a beautiful place. Absolutely beautiful. See if I can get this one here. Here's another one. You can see some of the other islands in the background. There's like a series of islands there. It's hard to see, I know, but yeah, that's where I was. Yeah, beautiful place. I'd recommend it. And yeah, they got the best fish and chips I've ever had in my life. Probably, but like most of the other Eastern fighters, he's jumping in with a sea level at 5-0 compared to Ameribums who don't do it till 16, 20, or in Wilder's case, like 40. Oh yeah, R.I.P. Based Horse. We salute you, R.I.P. Based Horse. Okay, where was I? I keep losing where I was. Ike Beabucci wants to come back. He looks good trained. Ike Beabucci commented on my videos. He's commented on a couple of them. He's got a YouTube channel. He actually commented on my video I made about him. Because I made a career breakdown for Ike Beabucci. He actually commented on the video and he thanked me for it. And he says, "God bless" and that. So yeah, nice guy. Nice guy. Char was meant to fight David Haye. Yeah, he was. And he showed up to David Haye's press conference where he announced his comeback. And yeah, he fought Vitali, lost. Then he was set to fight Haye, and then Haye pulled out, supposedly with an injury. And then signed to fight Tyson Fury instead. I find it funny how most people say that Ali dominated Liston in the first fight. Scorecards were razor sharp before he had to retire on his stool because of his shoulder. Yeah. Well, and again, a lot of people believe that, and I'm one of them. Was it Liston was basically forced to take a dive because of the mob. Most people believe it in the second fight, but I think even the first fight, I think he threw the fight personally. I've always thought that ever since I watched it because it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, claims he injured his shoulder, but I don't know. It didn't look to me like he was in any pain or discomfort or anything. He just, Ali was like dancing around, basically just throwing jabs and barely doing any damage. And, Liston was just jabbing and not really having much success. And then he just quit on his stool. That fight has never sat right with me. And when you do some research into Sonny Liston, and you know that he's basically, he's basically a mob controlled fighter, a guy who was a guy who was in deep with the mob and likely was done in by them. But yeah, he was in deep with the mob. But it makes sense to me that he would throw a fight against a hyped up, and I don't mean any disrespect by that. I mean a guy who had a lot of hype from like the Olympics. Ali was Olympic gold medalist, young guy, marketable, confident, good looking. he was the guy they were trying to market, clearly. He was a guy who was, the next big thing in the sport, who was going to be a big moneymaker. So, yeah, I honestly believe Liston threw the fight. I believe he threw both fights, Klitschko was one of the dirtiest fighters I've ever seen. The fight against Povetkin was disgusting. Yeah, he clinched too much for my liking. And the Povetkin fight, he clinched way, way too much. Like, he got away with so much clinching and leaning in that fight. It was a disgrace. He should have had several points deducted in that fight. At least three or four points he should have had deducted, I think. Most underrated boxing nation. Underrated boxing nation. Let me think about that. I mean, there's the obvious, nations that produce great fighters, like Mexico, America, Russia, Ukraine, the UK to an extent. That those are the ones you think of, but underrated ones, it's hard to say. Maybe Japan. I would say probably Japan. Because Japan isn't really known for being like a place that produces great boxers, but I can think of a lot of pound for pound level fighters from Japan. You got guys like Inoue, guys like what's that guy's name? The other one, Ioka, who I think is also a pound for pound level fighter in terms of skills. There's a lot of at least right now, anyway, in recent years, there's been a lot of really good fighters. Yamanaka, who was pound for pound level at one point, a lot of people thought. I think Japan over the past few years has produced a lot of world class fighters, and a lot of them are very, very tough, warriors, and they tend to have underrated skills. Sandor Martin scored a huge upset, then threw it all away by diving against Teofimo Bumpez. Yeah, and again, like I said, I was the only person in the YTBC who picked Sandor Martin in both of those fights. I picked him to beat Mikey Garcia, and I picked him to beat Teofimo, which he should have beat Teofimo, but he took it easy on him and gave it away. A lot of people thought he still won, but he sparred with him and didn't try his hardest, And I think he threw the fight. I honestly do. It's the only way I can make sense of it. Only heavyweight I rate from this era is Usyk. He's the only one I believe would compete with everybody in 80s and 90s. Never believed the hype with AJ and Fury. Well, I think AJ and Fury would, based on, at very least, based on size. I mean, Fury's way bigger than any of the 80s and 90s, top level heavyweights. He's bigger than Andrew Golota, big man. And AJ's big enough and hits hard enough to make it competitive with anybody, at least, But yeah, they're overrated to an extent. Definitely by the fanboys, they're overrated. Definitely. But that's not to say that they're not talented, because they certainly are. Oh, that's a good fight. Sergey Bohacek versus Virgil Ortiz. And that's the thing with Virgil Ortiz, you never know, because that guy has that health condition, apparently. The thing that CrossFitters get, that what's it called again? Rhabdo or whatever. The thing CrossFitters get. And they brag about because they're weirdo cultists, and that's a career-ending illness potentially. So you never know, man. Virgil Ortiz, he'll be an open question or there'll be a big question mark on him his whole career on whether or not he's healthy. It makes his fights difficult to predict, Liston was definitely into something dodgy, had needles, but apparently died of an overdose using a needle. Or he hated needles, yeah. It seems, obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know, but it seems to me like that was a carefully orchestrated murder by maybe the mob. Seems like it to me. John McDermott is currently on the railway points. First man to beat Fury. Yeah, he was robbed. John McDermott won that fight. I mean, Fury destroyed him in the rematch, to be fair, but the first fight, John McDermott was robbed. He won that fight. He did. Or he should have won it, Ike Ibuchi actually guilty. Was he set up by a sket like Tyson was? I don't know. Apparently he didn't he lock a woman in a closet and say that like demons were trying to kill his mum or something. I don't know. I don't know the situation. I think the guy was crazy. I think he was delusional and psychotic and kidnapped somebody. I don't know. Again, I don't know the details. So, it's what it is. I have a feeling Ike was set up. Wouldn't surprise me. But why was he set up? Yeah, he had multiple charges. He had he apparently would refuse to pay for haircuts and stuff like that, and went around acting like a thug and all that. And I don't know. I don't see why they'd set him up. Why? He didn't have enough clout to be set up. I don't see why. Surely he would know the difference. Yeah, you never know. You never know. Like, I don't see why they'd set him up. What reason? Do you know? I personally, I don't think so. I don't think Ike would have become world champion. I'll tell you why. To me, he got hit too much. Look, Ike had that victory over Chris Bird. To me, that victory is the very definition of a fluke. And the reason I say that is because now Chris Bird was one of these guys who generally didn't get stopped early in his career, right? Because he was so awkward, he was such a great spoiler, and he was the kind of fighter where if he figured out he couldn't beat you, he would just run all night, showboat, and go the distance, right? But see, when he fought Ike Ibeabuchi, he got caught with a shot and he went down. And he kind of was just off balance. And then it was like he spent the rest of the fight complaining to the referee, saying it shouldn't have been a knockdown. And he kept taking his eyes off the opponent. And again, it was like he was trying to get the knockdown overturned or something. And again, when you do that, you leave yourself wide open. And that was what he did. He lost concentration. He didn't pay attention to what he was doing. He should have been focusing on winning the fight and minding his defense. But he ended up getting stopped. But like, he wasn't knocked out. He wasn't like beaten up or anything. He took his eye off the ball. He got overwhelmed and he got stopped. If they'd have had a rematch, I don't think Ike would have stopped him in the rematch. I think it would have been a close fight. He would have lost. He probably would have won on points. But people overrate that win. But if you look at Vladimir Klitschko's 2 fights that he had with Ike Ibeabuchi, or that he had with Chris Bird, sorry. Chris Bird landed more punches on Ike in those 5 rounds that he fought him. And this is Chris Bird, a non-puncher at heavyweight. He landed more punches on Ike than he landed on Vladimir Klitschko in 2 fights. One that went 12 rounds and one where he got stopped in round 7. And they weren't flukes. Like, Vladimir dominated every single second of every single round of those fights. Whatchamacallit? The Chris Bird fights. He won every single second. So I don't think like if Ike Ibeabuchi had fought Vladimir, I don't think that would have even been competitive. I think Vladimir would have put a beating on him and knocked him out. I said that in the video, and I think I did anyway. I don't think it would have been competitive. I think Ike is so. He was a good fighter, tough guy, big puncher, good stamina, good work rate, but he didn't have great defense. He didn't have great like technical ability. I think Vlad would have put a beating on him and stopped him, and I think Vitali would have done the same. I personally think he would have. Yeah. Wilder does throw a lot of rabbit punches in fight. Look at what he did to Audley Harrison while he was down. Oh yeah, Uzbekistan have got some good fighters. They've produced some good ones in recent years, to be fair. Would he been able to take Vlad's power? No, I don't think he would have. Again, he got hit a lot against David Tua. David Tua was a big puncher, but nowhere near as big a puncher as Vlad. And again, he got hit more against Chris Bird than Vlad did in 12 rounds. So I think Vlad would have stopped him. I really do. Most overrated boxing nation. Probably America. Probably. In fact, yeah, definitely America, I'd say. Lennox Lewis would have lost to Usyk. I think Lewis would have a chance against Usyk due to size, power, strength. he was good at pulling you onto the uppercut and throwing you about, ragdolling you. But I do think technically, Usyk was a lot better. I think Usyk would probably win on points in a competitive fight, but I think Usyk wins on points. I think. Yeah, he could. It's a competitive fight. Yeah. I would favour Usyk. I don't think he'd stop Lewis. I think Usyk would win on points. Larry Holmes would do okay because he had a great jab and great lateral movement. I don't know if he had the size and power to defeat modern heavyweights, but he would give them a run for their money. Yeah, God bless you, man. Thanks for stopping by. Holmes' jab was something else. Watched this fight with Norton the other day. Oh, yeah. Holmes was, like, even in his 50s, Holmes had a good jab. When he was 52 years old and he fought Butterbean, he still had a great jab. Don't get me wrong, I think that fight was probably fixed too, but because it was like a sparring session. But look at the way Holmes was able to move and how accurate his jab was. He still had it, man. He still had it to an extent. Yeah, he's definitely changed. I think Ike's a much nicer person. I mean, he seemed nice when he commented on my video. He seemed respectful, you know. I think he's a born-again Christian. I can hope so anyway. Hopefully he accepted Jesus. Is there a specific fighter or fighters that you were questioning whether or not they should have a boxing license? Yeah, Lawrence Okolie. He shouldn't have a boxing license. He doesn't deserve one. That guy should be in jail for molestation, you know. So yeah, he's one. What do you think of Graziano Roggiani? Very good fighter. Very good fighter. The guy was massively underrated, got robbed so many times, and the first Darius fight was also disgusting by the Polish, should have got an Oscar. Yeah, he kind of milked it, and then because that was what happened in that fight. Like, what was it? Was it a headbutt? Darius got headbutted, but then he kind of milked it and quit, and then ended up with a DQ, or did it go to the score? I think it was a DQ, wasn't it, if I remember rightly? But yeah, he was coming on strong in that fight. I watched Roggiani's. I watched his fight with Michael Nunn, and again, that's one of them fights. People say that was a robbery, but it wasn't. I thought Roggiani completely dominated that fight. I mean, he had the high guard. He was blocking shots. He was countering. He was backing him up, outworking, outlanding him. I thought he schooled Michael Nunn. I thought he won that fight clearly. You know. So yeah, very good fighter, very underrated. It's a shame he never got the Roy Jones fight because he was owed that fight and they wouldn't give it him, sadly, you know. Nordic Warrior ain't sucking Ike off even if he watches the channel. Good stuff, never so. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm honest. I was honest about Ike in the video. I said this stuff about who I think he'd beat and who I think he wouldn't, and he didn't seem, you know, he watched the video, he didn't seem triggered by it, or I assume he watched it anyway because he commented on it and thanked me. So yeah, I'm not gonna sell out for nobody. That's what it is. Yeah, still I'm not. Yeah, he might be. Analyze Jeff Horn for us, please. Jeff Horn was a very dirty fighter, very rough, very awkward, but yeah, he was a yeah. I never liked Jeff Horn. He was a bit of a thug, man. That Pacquiao fight was a disgrace. He should have never won that fight, you know. I'm not saying he would have been great champion, but I think he would have picked up a belt at some point. Yeah, he could have picked up a belt, definitely. I don't think he'd have been the best, but I think he could have picked up a belt. Yeah. Otke with the right promoter. Yes, John Ruiz was world champion. Yeah. John Ruiz was he was the WBA champion, so Ike could have beaten him. I mean, look what Tua did to John Ruiz, so it's possible, you know. Greatest heavyweight of all time. I've always said Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko at his absolute best is the best heavyweight I've ever seen. Even with his flaws, at his absolute best heavyweight I've ever seen. Ike had a great chin, though. Don't you think it'd be similar to Peter versus Klitschko one? No, I don't think so, because Peter was a much bigger puncher. Like Ike was a better athlete than Peter. Ike had more stamina, and he threw a lot more punches, but Peter had a much bigger punch. And not only that, but see, Peter versus Klitschko 1, that wasn't as competitive as people think. Like, Peter had a couple of big moments in that fight. Two of the knockdowns weren't knockdowns. Like, you see, the first two knockdowns in that fight were blatant rabbit punches. like literally just right behind the head, and Vladimir went down to his knees. Neither of those should have counted as knockdowns in my. I know Klitschko brought it on himself by trying to clinch. He kind of brought it on himself, but they shouldn't have been knockdowns. The third knockdown was a legit knockdown, and I think Vlad was genuinely hurt there. But aside from that, Peter didn't have much success in that fight. And Vladimir was always in control, and he put a beating on him. And I don't think Ike was as dirty a fighter as Peter. I don't think he would hit behind the head as much. I don't think he was as physically strong. Like Sam Peter was one of these like genetic freaks in his prime. The guy was like shockingly strong and powerful. He was like one of these big fat jacked guys, and his punches were so heavy. And I think he was stylistically a tougher fight than Ike would have been, I think. Because I think Ike would try harder and he would come forward more. And I think Vlad would just put a beating on him and stop him. I genuinely do. I think Vlad's a bad style in that sense, George Grove's single arm victory against Crazy the Sissy Eubank, yeah, that was impressive. That was a fight that was tough to call going in as well. I think I actually got that wrong. I think I picked Eubank for that fight because I thought Groves was past his prime. And I didn't think he was shot, but I thought he was past his prime and he would just get outworked and lose on points. But he surprised me in that fight. He dominated it. I thought he won like 10 rounds to 2. And yeah, injured his arm late because Eubank was trying to ragdoll him and he injured his arm, but Groves still won on points. Yep, but there's levels to this game. Nigeria has a Christian population, so it's possible. Yeah, true. And plus, what's his name? Peter was a very good Christian too. He was a born again Christian, or he still is, I think. Who took a worse beating? James DeGale against Badu Jack or Ali against Fraser? Ali against Fraser. Even though DeGale lost his teeth, Ali took so many left hooks in that fight. He must have had brain damage after it. He must have. No, it was it a low blow? All right, I forgot. I've seen it, but it was years ago that I saw it, so I forget. So yeah, I know it was a foul, and Darius kind of milked it and got the win. But Darius then came back and won the rematch. I know that. Who was a heavyweight champion when you were born and when you started watching boxing? I was born in 1994. So if memory serves me correctly, wasn't like Evander Holyfield or someone? Was Evander Holyfield heavyweight champion in the early 90s? Or have I got that wrong? Was it like Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, guys like that? Or am I completely off on that? I forget. I know that the Klitschkos were around then as like prospects and that, were they not? I could. Someone let me know who was heavyweight champion in 1994 because I don't even know. So someone's telling me it was like the Holyfield era or something, or am I tripping? Have I got that completely wrong? But yeah, when I started watching boxing, like I'd say I started watching it like constant or like regularly in about 2009. I'd watched it here and there before then, but I'd say I became a hardcore fan in 2009 when I was 14, I believe. I think I was 14 then or something. Was I 14 then? I don't know. It was something like that. That was when I first stepped in a boxing gym, was when I think it was like a week before I turned 15 or something. And it was not too long before then. I think I became a hardcore boxing fan. Jeff Horn was a bum. Yeah, I'd never liked Jeff Horn. Lehman Brewster versus Ike. I'd go with Ike in that fight, believe it or not. I know Lehman Brewster beat Vladimir, but styles make fights. I think Ike would be able to outwork and outmuscle Brewster and probably win on points. It'd be similar to the John Ruiz fight. I think Ike would win on points. I wish we'd got John Ruiz versus Johnny Nelson. Whoa, that would have been, mate, that would have been hard to watch. Hard to watch. I'll wholeheartedly disagree with Klitschko. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Peter versus Ike. I think Peter might have been too powerful, honestly. It would be a shootout, But I think like that could go two ways. Either Ike outworks him and wins on points like he did with Tua, or Peter lands a big shot and knocks him out. I'd probably just favour Peter because I think he was so much stronger and hit so much harder. Vlad took a lot out of Peter in that fight, and then Vitali took what Peter had left a few years later. Yeah, but by the time Vitali fought Peter, I think he was punch drunk. I don't think he was the same fighter anymore. Yeah, Peter wasn't in very good shape. He wasn't. But he was a very, very strong big puncher. Peter used to do a lot of rabbit punches, but Vlad even managed to rock Peter in the last round. Yeah, he did. That big left hook, that was massive. I don't know what kept Peter on his feet for that fight. That was incredible. That left hook, so well timed it perfectly. The stream is proof Nordic don't hate black fighters. Who said I hate black fighters? You know, again, only normies thought that. You know, I don't hate anybody. I'm a Christian. Thoughts on Chris Billum-Smith versus Reactpool? That's an interesting fight. I think Reactpool probably wins it on points, but I think Billum-Smith will I think he'll give a good account of himself because he's tough and he works hard. I think that'll be a close fight. I think Reactpool will win, but I think Chris Billum-Smith will put up a good fight. I think Holyfield and Lewis were champions. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm sure Holyfield at least was a champion round about then, and Lewis might have been too. But no, but didn't Lewis come around a bit later though? Like wasn't Lewis a champion like towards the back end of the 90s? I don't know, but I'm sure Holyfield was a champ. I'm sure Holyfield was a champion round about then. People in the UK take the piss out of Frank Saville, bum Bruno for taking a big game, then talking a big game, then getting destroyed. Yeah, they do. Yeah, true. Foreman was champ. Oh, was Foreman champ during 1994? Interesting. But yeah, that was the year I was born. But yeah, Holyfield and Foreman both had titles around about that era, didn't they? Around about then, you know. Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah. Johnny Nelson versus Mike Tyson. Do you think Johnny Nelson could run away and survive against Mike Tyson? What made you step into a gym at a young age, if I may ask? It was my friend. My best friend in school was a amateur kickboxer, a pretty good one too. And he basically because he was a kickboxer, like people told him that he had more of a boxer style and he might be more suited to boxing. So he decided that he wanted to try out boxing, but like he didn't want to go himself. So he asked me, like I had no interest in any sport then at that point in time, but he asked me if I want to go with him and try out a boxing gym, and I did. And I ended up loving it. I ended up enjoying it. I just wish I stayed at it. I wish I stayed I wish I'd stayed motivated, if you know what I mean. Because I don't know, could have probably competed, but yeah, I just never had the motivation, never had the commitment to it. But yeah, it was my best friend, and he became a good amateur too. He was a very good amateur for several years. He doesn't fight anymore. He's now a personal trainer, believe it or not. But yeah, he was. He went on to become a very good amateur. Me and him used to spar all the time when we started boxing, and yeah, he was the one who got me into it basically because he was obsessed with combat sports. He loved it. Like he kickboxed for years since he was a young kid, and he wanted to try boxing, and he wanted someone to go with him, and I was into it. So yeah, that was how I first went into a boxing gym. Probably wouldn't have ever if it wasn't for him, you know. You've got googly eyes for those two mid 2000s heavyweights. It was the worst era. I disagree strongly. Many of the top heavyweights from that era were elite level amateurs who had like really, really accomplished amateur careers. Guys like Povetkin, Shagayev, and whatnot. And they went on to become world-class heavyweight professionals, and with the Klitschko's ruling the roost, you know. I think that was one of the strongest eras. I genuinely believe the Klitschko era was one of the strongest eras of heavyweight boxing. It was a consistent era. There was a consistent crop of world-class, top-level amateurs who turned professional, and many of them were really, really good. It's just they couldn't compete with the Klitschkos. The Klitschkos were on another level. Some of the best athletes of all time who lived the life and were also they also had the size and the athleticism, and they ruled it. That they made like in my opinion, the Klitschkos made the era look bad, but I think the era was great. Who was the better Klitschko, Vlad or Vitali? I think Vitali was tougher and a bit more naturally athletic, but I think Vlad had better boxing skills, better technique. He hit a lot harder, might have been stronger, might have had better footwork, better defense. I think Vlad was technically better, and I think he was the better athlete. He wasn't as tough. He wasn't as much of a natural fighter. So yeah, basically the best way to sum it up, Vitali was tougher, but Vladimir was better. Vladimir was more skilled. Lewis had the belt that Bo vacated. Holyfield beat Bo in the rematch for the other belts. So was that around about 2004 then? Oh, sorry, 1994. Interesting. Lewis beat Bruno in 93 WBC title. McCall knocked out Lewis in late 94. Interesting. So McCall also had a title in 1994 at one point. Interesting. The strangest, almost random venue you've seen in boxing. That's an easy one. I went to a fight once. It was a Midlands area title fight, and it was in a rugby field, and they had a big tent. Like it was literally in a tent in a field outside a rugby club, and yeah, that's where they had the show. It was interesting, and the main event of that show was a guy called Matt Haney. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Matt Left Hook Haney. He was a pro boxer from Derby. He was Midlands area champion, and he was my mate's kickboxing coach, believe it or not. And yeah, he was fighting a guy called Kevin McCauley, a well-known journeyman from the UK. I've been to several of his fights, and yeah, he won by a third round knockout. I remember that so clearly. That was the main event. There's probably no footage of that fight anywhere, but because it wasn't televised. But yeah, I was there, and I remember that the co-main event that night was Dave Ryan. You guys might have heard of Dave Ryan. He was Josh Taylor fought him. He was a domestic level fighter from Derby. He had a Midlands area title at 1.2, I think. And yeah, he fought on the undercard. He had a first round stoppage against some journeyman. Yeah, that was the weirdest boxing venue I ever went to. It was strange, That was a good night though. It was a good card too. I enjoyed it. Johnny Nelson avoided the best fighters during his reign. Doesn't impress me. Yeah, Johnny Nelson was a garbage fighter. He just ran all night, spoiled. I'm not saying he didn't have skills, but he was boring and lame. I got no time for him, Povetkin, Peter Ibragimov would have been major players in the nights. I agree. They were all very, very good fighters. Povetkin, in my opinion, is an all-time great. One of the best heavyweights of all time. Peter, one of the biggest punchers in heavyweight of his era. A very tough guy. Ibragimov, very skilled. He wasn't the most physically dominant fighter, wasn't the biggest puncher, wasn't the best athlete, but very technically good, very skilled. In my opinion, he was more skilled than he gets credit for. He was very skilled, but the problem is, like, when he fought Klitschko, he kind of was intimidated. I don't think he had much fighting heart, but he was very skilled. But I think Povetkin was better out of all of them, though. Who are some of your weakest heavyweight champions? I think Michael Benn, Stavern, Charles Martin. Yeah, I think Trevor Bryan might be the weakest heavyweight champion ever. He's worse than all of them. I think you should fight at least once. I had a mate box one time at 28. He trained years, never wanted to compete. I convinced him. That's good. Yeah, some people just do it for like self-defense and to keep fit. I'm hoping to fight. Again, I'm getting my weight down slowly. I weighed myself today. I was 188 pounds. In February this year, I was 213 pounds. So I've lost a good like couple of stone, I think, and yeah, I'm hoping to get down to like my goal right now is 175, and if I can get down to that, why not maybe 168? It's possible, you know. But yeah, um, I'm starting to. I've still got like an okay amount of body fat on me, but I'm losing it like steadily. So I think I could compete maybe at super middleweight, light heavyweight, and maybe have a fight. I don't think I could go lower than that healthily, but yeah, if I can make like 12 stone, if I can make I don't know like 12 stone 7, I could get an amateur fight and see what happens. You never know. You never know. Um, I've not seen it, but I saw screenshots of the girl. They made her into like a fat tranny or something, and yeah, look, I'll play the original. If I want to play Silent Hill 2, I'll play the original, or I'll play the HD one on 360. I don't need to play the new one. What's happening? What's happening, bro? How's it going, man? God bless you. Yeah, Prime Shagayev and Hay were very good. Very good. Yeah, yeah. Charles Martin sold the belt to AJ. Yeah, he did. What do you think about the Povetkin versus Hook fight live in Germany? So most of the time, I'm hearing Povetkin robbed Hook. I don't think he robbed him. That's weird. I've watched that fight so many times. That's one of my favorite fights. I used to have it on my channel actually, but I took it down. I've got it on another channel now. But yeah, that's one of them fights. When I first watched it, I thought Hook won. When I watched it the second time, I thought Povetkin won, and my mind changes it's like every time I watch it, my mind changes on who I think won. Like it's one of them. Like Hook was very aggressive. He was outworking Povetkin, but a lot of his work was messy and wasn't really scoring. But Povetkin was landing like clean, accurate punches, and I think he would finish some of the rounds strongly, and I just think his work was cleaner. So I had no argument with the decision. I think it was a fair decision. Could have gone either way, but it was a fair decision. I think Povetkin deserved to keep a hold of his title, but it was a great fight. It's one of my favorite fights to watch. Oh yeah, Rackman versus Lewis 1 and 2. They were brutal. Both of them were brutal knockouts. Both of them were. Yeah, yeah. They turned the chick into like a big fat tranny looking thing. You know, toxic boxing community. Well, I think we all know what that is. It's the LDBC. Of course it is. I give Lennox a puncher's chance against Fury, but I think Fury would outbox him. Against AJ, I think Lennox does everything better than AJ. I think again, I give AJ a puncher's chance in that one, but I think Lennox would break him down and knock him out late. I do. Yeah, I think Vlad would have beaten Lewis. Like both at their absolute best, absolute prime. Vlad was bigger. Vlad had the better jab, better movement. I think he would have outboxed Lennox, and I think he would have probably knocked him out late in a competitive fight. So yeah, it's an interesting one though. But yeah, man, I'm getting tired. It's been going for over 3 hours. I might call this one now because yeah, I don't know, man. I'm getting really tired. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, guys. I'm gonna wrap this one up. Enjoy the Adrian Broner Blair Cobbs extravaganza if you're gonna watch it. And yeah, God bless each and every one of you. Stay vigilant. Thanks for stopping by. It's been fun.